Good afternoon, everyone. It is 4 o'clock on April the 27th. It's time to begin our budget workshop. This time I will call the roll. Councilmember Anthony,
Here.
Councilmember Gordon,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Holloway,
Here.
Councilman James,
Here.
Councilman Kazire,
Here.
Mayor Kilgore here, Councilman McGee. I believe he's coming on a little bit later, Bruce said. Okay, this time we'll call ourselves to order, fiscal year 2021-22 budget work session. At this time, I'll recognize our finance director, Lisa Strickland. Lisa, please.
Hey, Mayor. I'm going to share my screen so that everybody can see the slideshow. Can you see it now?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Welcome, everyone, to the budget workshop for fiscal year 2022. Excited to present a balanced budget for your consideration. We have
Lisa, this is Mujib. Could you please identify yourself for the meeting?
Yes, Lisa Strickland, Finance Director. In the meeting format, as we've done in the past, for other meetings, is going to be Zoom, all remote. The public accommodation, we are live streaming for public to view. There's no direct public comment or participation. Part 1 covers revenue trends, our available fund balance, and our current debt schedule. Property tax revenue, our biggest revenue source. As you can see, the assessed valuations as provided by the county really jumped up in 2022. This amount is due to the revaluation. You've had some presentations from Van Harrell discussing those. It was a 28% change over 2021. If we left our current tax rate of 0.6163 the exact same way, it would generate almost $27.5 million. We've calculated the revenue neutral tax rate. This rate calculated to be 0.5025, and it will generate $22.4 million. We've also talked about among staff an increase to the tax rate. So above the revenue neutral rate of 5025, we're wishing that council would consider a 3-cent tax increase to 5325. This would cover paving, would increase efforts towards the road restoration program that we currently have in place. And it would also begin funding Fire Station 6, go toward the building and equipment costs to get that station online and in service.
This is Larry Faison, City Manager. And Lisa, if I could add some remarks.
Yes.
Okay. So again, this is Larry Faison, City Manager. And these two initiatives seek to address the spoken and felt needs that our citizens have expressed over the years, and from time to time, council members have sought ways to respond. Both are significant challenges, which I'm responding to by proposing this funding mechanism to support increasing the amount of street miles paved each year by approximately 2.5 miles through an additional $1 million of funding, and to create a Fire Station 6 Capital Reserve Fund to use for accumulating initially $350,000 on an annual basis. The slide is, Lisa just kind of gave you a brief overview of, summarizes the cost of each initiative, paving and Fire Station 6 firefighting. Regarding the street paving, rudimentary repaving cost metric is about $400,000 a mile. Thus, a little more than 2 cents is needed to meet that objective of adding 2.5 miles to the annual paving program to address the more than 170 street miles the city maintains. This addition of 2.5 miles a year reduces the time lag that streets get repaved. The city's current paving program paves approximately 3.5 miles annually and has about a 50-year window of time that lapses between residential street repaving applications. So again, this proposal reduces that period considerably, close to about a 30-year time frame, from 50 to 30 years. In terms of the Fire Station 6 firefighting numbers, they're not maybe as straightforward in understanding the need or funding methodology. So I'll try to offer some high-level remarks and a synopsis. The slide summarizes the anticipated cost for establishing Fire Station 6 and proposes to create a capital reserve fund to accumulate and add operating budget dollars each fiscal year, initially at $350,000, and to build on that amount each year to fully fund what we see as the cost of the total cost of Fire Station 6. As a reminder, the fire department applied for a safer firefighting grant to fund 12 firefighter positions. If the grant is awarded, the personnel costs are covered for the first 3 years of that grant. The fourth year would be the city's costs, which would be required to be funded for that year. If the grant is awarded, the dollars for the 3 fire captains that I've proposed for this budget, and which you'll see and hear again later in the slide presentation, those funds would be shifted into the proposed capital reserve fund to anticipate the fourth year of funding that will be needed to cover the total cost of the 12 firefighter positions for Fire Station 6 that the grant is paid for, if awarded, during the initial 3 years of the grant's term. However, during each of the interim grant years, the first year, the second year, the third year, the additional operating funds that would be sought to add to this initial amount of the capital reserve amount of $350,000, along with the $305,000 of funds associated with the 3 fire captains that are currently proposed. For the purpose of accumulating those dollars to cover the full personnel cost in year 4 of the grant. Today's cost is estimated at about $1 million for those 12 personnel and their turnout gear. Those dollars in the capital reserve fund would be expected to grow, perhaps in excess of $2 million, approximately, over a 3-year period, and can be used to offset the cost of a new Fire Station 6 or apparatus, in other words, a fire truck, or both. However, the revenue from the operating budget would eventually be assigned to the personnel cost of those 12 firefighter positions that were initially funded by the grant. So, it may sound like a lot of smoke and mirrors, but what I just outlined is fundamentally the alignment of current operating revenues to future operating expenses. And during the interim, building a reserve or savings to use for a one-time expense of a truck, a fire truck, or a building, a fire station. So most of you may recall that we handled the police department building, the proposed one that's going out to bid in a matter of weeks, in much the same manner. We built the capacity and operating revenue to anticipate the loan for the building, and we did that about 4 years ago. And during the interim years, we funded a capital reserve to offset some of those expenses, for example, the cost of design, environmental assessments, etc. So alternatively, if there is not a grant award, the proposed 3 fire captain positions are filled in January 2022, and this proposed $350,000 shown on the slide would flow into the capital reserve fund for the same purposes and reasoning that I just outlined, except there isn't a grant. Both efforts are proposed to begin in fiscal year ending 2022, which is next fiscal year, and would advance street paving by approximately $1 million and the Fire Station 6 initiative that began almost 4 fiscal years ago that has a lump sum startup cost estimated at more than $6 million. So the bottom line, I'm recognizing those 2 areas, street paving and the Northwest region fire response, as being underserved and propose lowering the tax rate from 61.63 cents to 53.25 cents, about a net change of a little more than 8 cents to fund those two sets of needs. So if you have some technical questions or more detailed answers you're looking for, both Sarah McAllister and Chief Fowler are available to answer them if needed. Now I turn the mic back over to Lisa, subject to your questions. So hearing none, Lisa, I would ask you to proceed.
Wait, hold on. This Councilwoman James, I have a question for Sarah. So looking at the miles paid, as Larry has stated, the 400,000, the additional paving for that, I guess about how much road paved does it cover?
Point of clarification, this is Larry Faison. 400,000 is the approximate cost per mile.
Right.
Currently.
Correct.
Currently. So I'm proposing an additional $1 million.
Okay. So Councilwoman James again, so about how many roads paved would that cover?
3.5.
So do we have a list of roads that we're looking at?
Okay, this is Larry Faison again. We once a year in tandem with the road paving contract, council receives a listing of the roads that are being proposed for resurfacing. And I mean, so that's but through a road survey, at least that Sarah could go into more detail on, through a road survey, the roads, city's roads are analyzed, and if you will, racked and stacked from, worst to best or best to worst, and assigned a value, and through some kind of high level analytics, the best assortment of roads are selected for repaving, and to get into kind of how those mechanics or those analytics are worked out, I would defer to Sarah.
That's okay. So Larry, one question for you, Councilwoman James. So is this 1 year or this ongoing, this 1 million that you project?
I'm proposing it as a fixed amount of 1 million each year.
Okay.
So an additional amount, and this is Larry Faison, an additional amount of 1 million each year. So it wouldn't be 1 million this year, 2 million the next year, and 3 million. It'd be an additional 1 million if adopted, if accepted by council, for adding to the current amount of dollars attached to repaving, which we've outlined at the bottom of the left side of the slide, or near the bottom of the left side of the slide.
Councilwoman James, another question. So with this 50-year interval that we're recommending, is this best practice or just an average for other city peer groups that we looked at?
This is Larry Faison. Really neither. It's how the math and the funding works out. So, and I mean, Sarah could offer maybe a more qualified answer, but at the current level of funding, it approaches about a 50-year increment currently of when residential roads would likely get repaved. Now, so some may see it earlier than that, but my understanding is on average, it's about a 50-year increment for residential categorized roads. With this additional funding, we could shorten or tighten that, and it would get closer to about 30 years. Okay. On average.
Okay, Councilwoman Anthony for Sarah. Sarah, have you determined which method you would use to decide which roads would be paved?
Yes, ma'am. This is Sarah McAllister with engineering. That survey that Larry referenced identifies the streets that need to be repaved to maximize the funds to get the best benefit. Okay. It is from like worst condition to best, or what method did you use? They use an analytic program that recommends several different treatment options. So it optimizes the money that we have to best get the best benefit. So it's not all worst to first. So they will recommend treating some with like a preservation technique, and then it will recommend, it'll select some streets to have more of a mill and fill where you catch it before it really deteriorates. So I trust the survey to just lean on their analytics to that they would maximize whatever funding we get.
Okay, Nick, thank you.
Mayor Kilgore to Sarah. How about the power bill fund? Is it increased any over the last year or two, or will it be increasing in this next fiscal year? Or how do we stand on that state money?
No, sir, this is Sarah, and Lisa, feel free to chime in if I say something wrong, but I understand, I think we're getting a reduction in power bill due to the, it's tied to the vehicle tax, so I think there's a slight reduction this year. It has stayed steady over the last decade for the most part with little fluctuations.
Mayor Kilgore, did I understand you said, why is it going down on account of, are you talking about the state vehicle tax, or are you talking about what particular tax you speaking of?
Yes, sir. The gas tax is part of the power bill funding.
Oh, the gas tax. Okay, yes, ma'am. All the same. So it'll probably go down a little bit. Is that what you say?
Yes, sir. This is Sarah McAllister again. Yes, that's, I believe Mary Lou told me there was a slight reduction that we're anticipated to receive.
Mayor Kilgore. Okay, thank you very much. Anything else? Questions for Sarah or Miss Larry? Mr. Larry? If not, we'll move on.
Any questions on Fire Station 6? Do we want to discuss support for the 3 cents above the revenue neutral rate? Or circle back at the end?
This Councilwoman James, I'd like to make a statement on the revenue neutral rate and the recommended tax rate that you're proposing. As the recommended tax rate, I know it includes, as you stated before, the road resurfacing and the Fire Station 6. I know Chief Fowler had made presentations at Public Safety and at the strategic meeting about the increase, the need, the time of the area that he's proposing at Fire Station. And I think it's crucial and vital if you live in those areas, the time response, what big significant it does play. And then also on the roads, you hear citizens talk about how the roads are, they need to be improved in the city of Monroe. So I just want to make that statement to both for that other recommended tax rate.
Mayor Pro Tem Holler, I'd like to make a statement also regarding the roads, especially in our new subdivisions. I know they're supposed to be up, they say city standards, which I'm assuming is state standards for a primary road. Is that correct, Sarah? What I'm concerned about with all these developments, that they build roads that are going to stand up. So as soon as the city takes them over, we're not going to have to be coming in there and repaving and fixing potholes. So they need to give us, or there needs to be some type of guarantee, warranty, whatever, that we don't have to do anything for X number of years, or maybe we shouldn't have to if they're built. What precautions are we taking as far as checking the engineering on those roads to make sure?
This is Sarah McAllister. We require them to meet our detail manual. And then we currently have one construction inspector, and I believe one additional is included in the budget this year to help us with all the construction that's going on. That construction inspector, each development has to have their own testing firm, and we go behind them and make sure that all our requirements in the detail manual are met.
Mayor Pro Tem Holler, thank you very much.
Any other questions? Mayor Kilgore, any other questions for Sarah, Larry? If not, Lisa, we can move on.
Lisa, Freddie Gordon here, if you don't mind, just a quick thing before you get started again. This recommended revenue neutral, the recommended tax rate, and I know it's going to include the extra for paving and for Fire Station 6, but now, is that rate going to cover the additional expense that is included in this dog and pony show here or not?
Mayor,
Yes,
This is Larry Faison. Councilmember Gordon, let me answer it this way. And I think it may be more clear later on, but the budget that has been designed, proposed, uses the revenue neutral tax rate, which is shown at the bottom, next to the bottom of this slide at 5025.
Yeah.
It does not, the proposed budget does not include these two initiatives. That's why I chose to ask Lisa to reference them or describe them as recommended unfunded initiatives. They are not funded. And so if council is supportive of these two items in the manner that they have been outlined, then the recommended tax rate of 5325 would need to be accepted. Does that answer your question?
Well, it does, and I hope I'm not asking the question prematurely. I know that there are, a number of other pages here, and there's a lot of proposed increases to various departments, but so they're all going to be included in this 5325.
Yes.
Yes, but this Larry phase, let me say, let me delineate that everything after this slide that will be covered is cooked into the budget, if you will.
Okay.
At the 5025 rate. These two items that you see the slide being projected to you are not in the budget.
Right. Okay. I got it. Move on.
Okay, Councilwoman Adams, just to be sure, I think I understood it. From these pages on, everything recommended is in the revenue neutral rate of 50.25. But if we include the recommended unfunded initiatives of the fire station and the paving, then it will be 3.25 cents over the recommended tax budget, the recommended revenue neutral. Am I understanding it correctly?
Yeah, this is Larry Faison, and you've got it essentially correct, except instead it'd be 3 cents instead of the 3.25. So it would be an additional 3 cents. But just splitting hairs, but yeah, basically an additional 3 cents. But yes, yes, Councilman Anthony, you got it basically essentially correct.
Okay, thank you.
I have nothing further.
This is Lisa Strickland. Any other questions or comments about the unfunded initiatives?
Councilmember, I do have a question, not to belabor the point, but say that we have another initiative that we wanted to add to the budget. Would that be included in this 5325, or will that be prorated with the maybe additional cost that's incurred if something else needs to be added to the budget?
This is Lisa Strickland. I think that would depend on the amount. We can see what the amount is and then determine if it's a one-time cost or an ongoing cost and make a determination based on that.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor Kilgore, Lynn Kazar, can you hear me? I don't know if Lynn's off the air or not. I was trying to determine. Sorry, I butted in, but
This is Larry Faison. I'll swing by and check.
okay. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
What's your
Yeah, I can hear when Councilmember Keziah talking, but his connection must be weak.
Okay. Mayor Kilgore, Lisa, you can hear Kazar.
It just got quiet now. I think Larry's in there.
Okay. You hear me all right?
Yes.
Okay.
This is Larry Faison. We've got Pete in working with the council member, so he should be back on shortly.
Okay.
Council Member Gordon here. I think we're going to have to get Bruce involved.
This is Larry Faison. We've got the next best thing individual working on it.
I hear you.
This is Larry Faison. I see his chat box pop back up, Mayor.
Mayor,
Yes.
Councilman Kazire, may I make a comment, please?
Yes, sir. You may go right ahead, sir.
All right, you got your revenue neutral rate is not 5.0, it's 4.897. And you add 3 cents to that. If you go the way that this thing is showing, you're going to be going up about 6 cents on the tax rate. And your general public is going to have a fit.
I'll refer that back to Mayor Kilgore, refer that back to Lisa or Larry for comment.
Lisa, you got revenue neutral rate is 4.897. Then you got 2.62 gross should be included, resulting in a 5-point proposed rate. I don't agree with that above the 3 cents that you're going to add. That's really sticking it to them pretty hard.
The 5025 does include 2.63% growth. And under the state statute, the revenue neutral rate is allowed to include an average amount of growth. So what we did was we took the growth that we had since the last revaluation, averaged it, and that amount is allowed to be included in that revenue neutral rate.
But that's sticking it to the general public. If you go down the way and you see that we do need to raise taxes more, that's the time to look at it rather than throwing this at them all at one time. I have no problem going up 3% from revenue neutral, but I got a big problem adding another 2.62 growth factor in there. That's that to me is way overdone.
Councilwoman Anthony, I agree with Councilwoman because I'm not in favor of anything above that 3 cent either.
This is Larry Faison. We can offer a more detailed explanation of the calculation of the revenue neutral rate. But what Lisa was saying is the calculation of the revenue neutral rate is 5.025.
Can't be if she's got it right here, Mayor. City Manager, you got 8.97. Then she says 2.62 gross should be included, and then you're tacking 3 cents on to that. That's not what the thing says. And I'm reading it.
And just for the record, that was Councilman Keziah.
Mayor Kilgore, what page is that on?
The one I'm looking at is property tax revenue. Right after the one you were looking at there. There we go. Look right down there, let's see, property tax revenue on my sheet. It's next to the bottom line. And you know, it's funny, on your screen, you're not showing that. But on my paper that you gave me, it clearly states, and it reads, revenue neutral rate is 4897. Then you're going 2.62 gross should be included, resulting 5025 positive for a proposed rate, 0.03% increase will generate 1,338,000 and can be used for additional street paving. You're tacking a number on there that is on and above what the revenue neutral is, because I'm looking at it.
If we wanted to maintain the same revenue, that 21.4 million that we collected this year, we would generate, I don't remember what the amount was. It was 0.49 something. I don't have that in front of me. I don't know if that was something that was in a note that was attached to your slide, but.
No, this says estimated collection rate for 222 is 99.11 based on current year projection rate. Revenue neutral rate is 0.4897 . Then it goes 2.62 growth should be included, resulting in a 5.25 proposed rate. 0.03% increase will generate. You're sticking additional 2.62 on that, which is not fair to the taxpayer.
Well, that's the growth. That's the growth for like your new residences, your new commercial, and that's your new value, that is baked into the assessed valuation. It's not like growth in the tax rate per se, it's growth.
And this is Larry President. So, Councilman, the slide that it's up on the screen right now, if you look back at year 2017 compared to 2019, there was a growth in value of 3.1 to 3.3 and a growth in revenue collection of 18 million to 20 million. The tax, well, that's not a good comparison. Maybe 2019 to 2020, tax rate remained the same, but there was growth, and therefore the revenues grew from 2019 to 2020. So the footnote that you're referring to, about 2.62% of growth, represents that is as an example, the growth that you see from 2019 to 2020, but it's an extended analysis that Lisa outlined, looking at from reval to reval. And I don't recall the number of years, if that's 6 years or 7 years, but whatever it is, it averaged out to 2.62%. And so that's applied to show that there is a growth in the value of 2.62%. And so the true revenue neutral rate would be 5025. So again, we can show you, we can give you the spreadsheet of all the analytics that go into that, but that's the shorthand explanation. So it's not the but if I understand your point, is that you might be supportive of a 3-cent change, not a 5 cent change, and we'll be happy to sit down with you.
Correct. That's correct.
We'll be happy to sit down with you and show you how the numbers on a very detailed level, how the numbers work out. But I think at least myself, and I think Lisa, understand the broad point that you and I believe Councilwoman Anthony are making, and probably others, that you might be supportive of the 3 cent, but not a 6, 7, 8 cent. That's correct. Somehow hit.
That's the woman Anthony, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, this Councilwoman James, Larry, you explained it well, because it's the growth, Councilman and Anthony, that's what he's saying. It's the growth. It's not an increase of 6. It's only 3. So.
Yeah, the growth is, this is Lisa Strickland, is based on additional value that's come online. So every year we have some growth in that valuation that we want to make sure that we include. That would be like any new homes that were built, any new industrial that added, personal property, or, built a new building. That's what that growth is referring to. It's in that assessed valuation. We want to be able to capitalize on, growth in our community. So that tax rate takes that into consideration, that 5025.
Okay, Councilwoman Anthony here. And it's also based on the new evaluation of property that the county did. That plays into it.
The new valuation does not, that growth is strictly just an average, because there's no way to really pinpoint exactly, house by house, how much we added. The state allows you to take an average and use that as your growth rate for the current year.
So that had Councilman Kazire here again, that you're telling me that this 2.62 in no way affects your tax increase or tax rate?
Correct. What we're doing is,
Mayor Kilgore, please identify yourself.
Lisa Strickland, sorry. What this tax rate does is, if we kept it at 4.9 or 4.849, whatever that was, we would generate the same amount that we generated this current year. With the growth or the additional value, the 5025 allows us to generate 22.4 million. This is a $988,000,
Right.
increase in taxable value.
Councilman Kazire again, Lisa, you just said what I'm talking about. You take 4.897, that is neutral, right? That is our
Yes.
neutral rate.
That would generate,
You add 3 cents to that, and that brings you up to where we're continuing to grow, but you're also adding 2.62 to it. You're adding a number in there for growth, because I'm sitting here looking at what you just said, 4.897. Then you're adding 2.62 to get your 50, and then you are adding 3 cents on top of that. There's no way that I'm reading that wrong.
But again, this is Larry Face. And again, if you look at what the growth that 2.62% is referring to, is demonstrated in the tax year of 2019 and the growth to 2020. The tax rate remained the same, but we saw a growth in assessed value and a growth in tax revenue. So that 2.62%, it's not fair to take a one-year snapshot and say that that's what the normal growth would be from year to year. So we use, we're allowed under the statute to use an average over the period of time from one assessment or revaluation to the next. So we're not cooking the books. It's simply recognizing the growth that if there had not been a revaluation, what we're representing, what Lisa is representing, is that we would have an average of 2.62% growth in property value and approximately the same amount in revenues from taxes, that 2.62. If everything remained the same, if the tax rate remained the same and there had not been a reval, that's what we would expect to see. So that's
Councilman Kazire here again. Revenue neutral means that we stay the same. Is that correct?
yes, and the growth rate is
I'm not talking
used
about a
to
growth.
help demonstrate what remaining the same would be.
You're talking about a growth rate in addition to a 3 cent tax increase. That goes to almost 6 cents.
Okay.
There's no way. I'm looking at revenue neutral, 4.897. And I totally agree. We don't want to go revenue neutral. And I expected to see 3 cents. But this 2.62 doesn't make any sense to me, because you're actually hitting the taxpayers with about 6 cents. And that's, I can't support that. I may be the only one other than Saluda, but I can't.
Mayor Pro Tem Holloway, this is for Manager Faison. It looks to me like the increase should be over there under the assessed valuation instead of 4,502,000,000. The growth, the amount should be there. That's you're talking about an increase in new homes coming on, new businesses, whatever, to increase our tax base. Instead of the tax rate, it should be in the assessed valuation.
Well,
What am I missing there?
this is Larry Faison. Well, yes, but in terms of we're after as part of a reevaluation, counties and cities are required to identify a revenue neutral tax rate, and perhaps the wording on the slide is adding to the confusion. What we're representing is the revenue neutral tax rate is 50-25. The other number that's shown in the footnotes, 4897, is what would bring in the revenue that was brought in current fiscal year. And if that if that rate was used, you would be actually going below a revenue neutral tax rate. And you can put that in the bank. We can.
This is Lisa Strickland. This is the worksheet that we use that the state provides. And what they do is break it down, your current rate, and you calculate how much tax levy you'll yield with your current rate. The tax rate to produce the equivalent levy is this revenue neutral rate to be included in budget ordinance adjusted for growth, 0.5025. And then it generates your next amount, because they want you to be sure to include that additional business or residence, that was added to your valuation. That this is the state LGC, Local Government Commission, distributes this form for use. And see, what they do is they take your percent change year over year, and then they use it to develop that 2.63%, 2.62% average growth rate, which factors into that rate that is calculated as your revenue neutral rate. I don't know if that helps.
Not with me, Councilman Preserve.
This is Larry Faison. What I would suggest, Lisa, is we outside of this presentation, we come up and show a detailed view of what the growth rate actually represents, and go back and show from year to year, perhaps what the growth rate actually represents and the effect of that. And I thought we kind of did that with the slide that you have shown right now, that between 2020 and 2021, or 2019 to 2021, tax rate remained the same, but the value increased. And there wasn't a re-eval. And that's, so what happened? Well, there was growth. And so to represent that, I think that we need to maybe show it in a more detailed manner. And I think the message that the council member and maybe others have made, we understand, and we'll come back with some more granular data to help explain the situation, and whatever council wants to do is what we'll do.
Councilmember Gordon here. I think that may well be what the problem is. You got 3 slides here that typically say the same things but have different footnotes at the bottom of each one, and so it's just a little confusing, I think, and so maybe some further explanation would be good. If not, we're going to be here till midnight discussing this. I don't know that it's going to be explanatory, really.
Again, this is Larry Fays on this. There's procedurally, there's not an action for council to take tonight. This is for familiarity and gives you kind of a run through of what the basis of our recommendations are, what the revenues look like, and as Lisa outlined at the beginning, kind of what gives you a picture, and then she'll be going through the recommended budget elements on a department basis. So there's not an action to take tonight, and so there's certainly I think there's time to take a deep dive on the point that Councilmember Kazai and Councilmember Anthony has raised, and we're happy to do it. But I would say, in interest of time, I would suggest that we go ahead and move on. I understand the point that's being made.
Mayor Kilgore, to Lisa and Larry and whoever, maybe we can at some point redo the math for whoever needs it and show what we need to. And as you said, we're not voting on it tonight anyway. And we can move on now, but come up with whatever we need to do for self-explanatory or whatever it may be. And that way we can move on if it's okay with the rest of the folks.
Roll on.
Well, we'll come up, I would recommend coming up with maybe a chart or whatever to show the math again, bring it on down. And that way, maybe a little bit better explanatory. And that way we can all get it that way. But like Councilman Gordon said a few minutes ago, I don't know if we'll ever get it ironed out tonight, but we got a few days to do it before the regular budget has got to be voted on. So if it's all right, we'll move on.
Okay, this is Lisa Strickland. Moving along, the next big revenue source for the city is sales tax. Sales tax collection. We had anticipated fiscal year 21 to really flop. We budgeted ultra conservatively because of COVID-19, and sales tax have been stronger than they ever have been. We're anticipating receiving 8.6 million for fiscal year 21, and we've projected growth in this revenue to 8.7 million in fiscal year 22. The percent value distribution you can see here has remained consistent. This value is based on our levy. Our levy we provide to the state on our TR2 tax form. This won't change until next year when everybody's values will change because of the revaluation. There's a 1-year lag there, so we'll still enjoy 9.06% of the total distribution for the county. Any questions on that?
Councilman James, Lisa. So on the Monroe's ever lower tax, why are you projecting it going down? I guess because it's a year lag, you're saying? Is that the reason why?
This is just the levy that we had to report to the state on our TR2 form. This is the value that they're using. I think there was a discovery in 2021 that drove it up.
Okay.
And that was the value that they had on that form that they used for the distribution.
Thank you.
The next significant revenue source for the city is utility sales tax. Utility sales tax is weather driven. You can see that the change is up and down. It just remains pretty consistent, anywhere from 3.3 million, a little under, to 3.4 million, a little over. We look for this to just remain consistent, and we're projecting 3.3 million for FY22.
Mayor Kilgore and Lisa, just curious. I noticed, why did it go down the sales tax on the electrical? in 2021? Just curious, what made that drop?
A warmer winter, most likely.
Okay,
It's all weather. If
okay,
the bill is higher, then the percent
the sales
tax
tax
is
are higher.
higher. Yeah.
Okay, very good, thank you. Should have known that.
The next significant revenue source for funding our budget is our unassigned fund balance. This is over and above the fund balance policy reserve amount. That 25% that we reserve is currently at 10.6 million. This 7 million is above and beyond that. So this amount here is available for one-time use. It's great to purchase our capital equipment replacements or new purchases from, anything that doesn't require an ongoing operating cost. So we wouldn't want to use this to fund any kind of personnel.
Lisa, Councilwoman James here. Before you go on, motor vehicle taxes, I didn't see anything in the slides on that. Do we have any projection on those numbers?
We do. I didn't prepare a slide on those. It's a little bit less of a revenue for us. I can certainly provide that when we provide the update on the ad valorem.
Okay, thank you so much.
General fund balance activity. As I mentioned, the 7 million is an unassigned. We also have a formal assignment or an earmark, if you will. Currently, those sit at 318,000 for airport grant acceptance. This is money that we use to match grants as they come available from the state. And we also have 3 million set aside for downtown parking lot improvements. Currently, this was earmarked for the lot that'll be over by the police department and senior center, the county lot behind us, and one-way conversion analysis was also included in that $3 million.
Okay. Councilwoman Anthony, you said the county lot behind us, we maintain the county lot.
Their employees park in it. We own the lot, though.
Okay.
Mayor Kilgore, Lisa, is the county still on board of paying a portion of that paving of that lot?
Lisa Strickland, they did not indicate that they have budgeted a match to be able to refurbish that lot. It's been kind of quiet.
Well, my understanding was Mayor Kilgore to Larry, city manager. Larry, you heard any more about that, them stepping up and paying part of that or half of that paving of that lot?
This is Larry Faison. I've not heard any conversation in the last 3 to 6 months.
You know, they indicated, Mayor Kilgore, they indicated that they were going to pay a portion of that. And I want to say half, but I don't know what the portion was, but they were going to pay a portion of it. So we may need to check into that and see if we can't get a portion of that refunded from the county, because they use that lot more than we do.
Councilwoman Anthony here, I agree with Mayor Kilgore. I think we need to revisit that, especially if they, use a lot more than the city. I don't think we should incur the whole expense.
Yeah, this is Larry Faison. We've not aggressively moved forward on that lot in terms of a maintenance project until we get the details worked out with the county. But that money, the 3 million, I believe is being referenced, was fenced, if you will, or earmarked for that purpose, as well as across Old Charlotte regarding police department parking area and senior center parking areas. So you'll probably see over the next year or two, while those projects are coming into fruition, a use of some of those funds. And once the county comes to the table, so to speak, on the parking lot across Church Street, we'd address it. But I have approached them in the past, lead up to each fiscal year, and heard positive, favorable responses, but we haven't gotten, it hasn't moved. We haven't really moved the needle, so to speak, in terms of an agreement that we can bring to council. So I think there's interest. In other words, I think there's interest, but I think their attention is on some other issues such as utilities and so forth. And so this is something that's not of an immediate consequence for them.
Okay, Councilman Anthony again.
Sorry,
Maybe
Councilmember
a
McGee.
gentle reminder.
Oh, my mic off. Go ahead, Saluda.
I'm done. I was just saying that maybe we need to do gentle reminder, even though they may be talking positive action, that's what really counts.
Councilmember McGee, I just wanted to add, I know we have a joint meeting coming up. Maybe there'd be an opportunity for us to have that conversation then.
Lisa Strickland. If there's no more discussion, moving ahead.
Lisa, Councilwoman James, question. With
Yeah.
that proposed use of undersigned fund balance, is there a list of items?
Yes, I do have a list of those items. I can email that to you.
Okay, thank you.
Councilwoman Anthony, I'd like to also get that list. Thank you.
Yes. Actually, I can pull it up at the end of the presentation or now. I have a slide on it.
Mayor and Council, this is Mujib Shakan. With respect to a discussion with the county, I would note the special meeting notice has been set and it does define what will be discussed. To add another item would require the county also agreeing. So I understand the council's want and desire to discuss the issue with the county while you have them all in the room. However, it is not part of the notice. And if this is something council truly wants, we can discuss that with the county. I don't know if they will necessarily agree.
Mayor Kilgore, I'm in the opinion, of course, I'm in the opinion that would be coming with under a different discussion at a different time. I say that for various reasons. I know we can't discuss it at the upcoming meeting. It's not on the agenda. So I think that would be better at a different time for various reasons. That's my opinion.
Councilman Gordon here, not to belabor, but maybe to move on this part. Those downtown parking lot improvements and that total of 3 million, if I'm not mistaken, was for multiple lots, not just the one where we're building or proposed to build a new police department. But they would have been, as Larry stated, on other lots that the city owns, but the county uses, primarily the railroad station area, as well as some others downtown. Is that correct, Lisa?
Lisa Strickland, that is correct.
Okay.
All right. Moving right along.
Projected activity for fund balance for the remainder of the fiscal year. We are seeing increased tax collections. We do anticipate higher than budgeted revenue for ad valorem. So we'll add to our fund balance. And we also are seeing higher than budgeted sales tax, as I mentioned before. I think a lot of people are just spending, money. I don't know if the stimulus has really helped out, but we're gonna have additional collections over what we budgeted of almost 8 million in sales tax. We are proposing a use of almost $3.4 million in unassigned fund balance. We're using that to budget or cover the costs of one-time expenses. A lot of these are repairs and replacements. And I do have that list. If you'd like me to jump to that slide, I can do that, or I can just email it whatever you prefer.
Councilwoman Nancy, I would rather you just email mine, please.
Okay,
Mayor Kilgore, I'd like to have a copy of that also, please.
I'll email that out. Moving along. Sometimes we look at debt payments, look at debt that's rolling off to provide some bandwidth for additional spending. In this case, the total debt for 2021 was $3,177,000. We're proposing almost $4.3 million for 2022. Most of this is the impact of the additional debt for the senior center and the police headquarters. If you look at the line up here, the 2011 revenue bonds for the airport, we refinanced that debt. That became the 2020 revenue bonds for the airport. But you can see that the debt service came way down. We saved over $100,000 a year by refinancing that debt. So, that helped offset the increase slightly. This remains constant until we see a drop out here in 2025 when the debt from the Winchester Center and J. Ray Shoot Gym drop off.
It's Councilwoman James. Lisa, got a question. On your at the bottom, if you notice the senior center and the police headquarters, both of them have 3, and then you got proposed 10-year 2 and proposed 20-year. Like, which one goes with what?
That one is the bottom, proposed 20-year term at 3.5%. There was another reference that I think is no longer on the slide. I think I deleted it. That was at 10 years. So just disregard that one.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
That's it for revenues. Part 2 of the presentation covers expenses, covers the budget metrics, which change because of the reval. It highlights the citywide initiatives that are in the proposed budget and any changes in the departments that are either new or non-routine. We focus on everything that's above $10,000 just for ease of making the presentation. There are no, there are no renewal or replacement items included in this presentation. And then when we're done with all of the expenses, we'll discuss the remaining proposed budget schedule. The budget metrics. At the new tax rate, 1 cent of taxable value is now $450,000. So if you were to raise taxes by 1 cent, you would raise $450,000. Or you would need $20 million worth of taxable value additional within the community to raise $100,000 for our budget. Citywide initiatives that are proposed are a 2% merit increase for all employees, a 2.5% COLA increase for all employees. As was mentioned back in March, the increase to our city's health contribution of 7.7%. We're also increasing our contribution to the retirement, that's the state retirement fund. This is mandated by the state treasurer's office, 1.2%. The air show is included in the budget. Outside agency funding in a total amount of $379,925 is included. It was an increase to the general fund of $22,850. Total economic development cash incentive grants are budgeted $1,062,590. This was an increase of $198,610. We do have some savings in the airport customs contract. This contract change in structure resulted in a savings to the general fund of almost 122,000. And as I mentioned previously, we had some debt service savings from our refinancing of 113,000. Any questions?
Yes, Councilwoman James, have a question, a statement as well. All right, looking at outside funding, I know that hasn't been in the budget package yet for us to approve. I think it was like February notes. The General Service had approved some funding there. It was 7 new funding, but it was only 3 that was approved. If you look at that number, the 22,850, I think it includes Ground 40 and Volunteer to Serve. And I think in their notes, Caraway Foundation was improved, but I'm not seeing that in that number. So my question for General Service Committee, how did you come up with the 3 organizations to fund? And it was 7 new ones. And I know you stated in your notes about COVID, you felt like because of the pandemic that you shouldn't increase funding and decrease it and things of that nature. So how did you decide which ones to fund and which not to fund? So again, I state I'm challenging how we do things, the procedures of how we do it, and just trying to get an understanding so we're transparent in what we do.
Councilman Kazar here, Mayor. General Services Committee, Councilman McGee and Councilman Holloway made the suggestions that we add these to our list for this year, and that's what we added. We can't add everything, but that's the ones we added, and they're the ones that requested.
Councilwoman James, again, as I stated before, the comment was we felt like due to COVID pandemic, there should be no increase to funding, but you chose 3 to fund. So again, my question is, how was the decision made to come up with the 3 that you decided to fund?
I'm not going to speak for Councilman McGee or Councilman Holloway, but I guess they felt that these guys really needed help, and I sure supported their request. The rest of it, they'll have to answer now.
So it's Councilwoman James again. So Councilwoman Holloway and Councilman McGee, can you elaborate?
Mayor Pro Tem Holloway, thank you for the opportunity. Basically, what we did, we picked the three. I think I did 1. I think maybe Franco had the 2. I can't remember exactly, but the main thing we started off with was there would be no decrease in any of the present funding nor any increase in that. So that's where that no increase came from the code. That was those that are already being funded. This was just 3 additional ones that we selected.
Councilmember McGee, if my memory serves me correctly, I think initially we didn't want to fund any new ones, and I suggested or asked to fund 2 that I knew about. So that's how those 2 got funded. So, and I agree, Councilwoman James. If the money's there, could have done business as usual. Because if the budget's there, if the numbers say that we can do it, then I would have been in agreement or okay with funding what we could fund based on budget, not based on COVID and those type of things, especially when our numbers are saying otherwise. So, but I was part of that committee. We made the decision that we made, but I did ask to fund a couple people that I felt like are being servant leaders in our community. And so those are the 2 that we got. I wish that we could have done more, but that wasn't the consensus of the committee. So that's how we decided.
Yeah, Mayor Pro Tem Holloway, thank you, Franco, for that recollection. Also, if I remember correctly too, there was one request for $140,000. So there were like I said, 7 or 9. 7, I think, was correct.
Mayor Kilgore to Mayor and Mayor Pro Tem. Can't hardly hear you, Mayor. Are you speaking directly into the?
I'll speak up.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, we had one request for 140,000, just to kind of put things in perspective. So, and I think those three that were selected they warranted it very much.
Councilwoman James, again, I'm challenging the process. Again, I state, because there was some funding, there was some applications that were received and the paperwork wasn't there. So if you look at the notes, the minutes from the committee, suggestion was made to go back and resubmit stuff. So again, I'm challenging the process of how we do these committees. We got to be consistent in how we do it and consistent with the procedures and process that we take. So again, that's what I'm challenging, the process of how we do things. And again, a question, this Councilwoman James, question for you, Lisa, because if you look at the numbers, the 357,075 for the adjusted budget for 21, it doesn't include the Caraway Foundation. It only includes Ground 40 and Volunteer to Serve. But if you look at the minutes from it, the 3,000 is included. So I'm confused as in, is it included or is it not included? Because it don't equal that number of 379,925.
This is Lisa Strickland. I think there was a couple agencies that did not receive funding in 2022 that had received funding in 2021. So that may have offset that amount slightly.
Okay, so this is Councilwoman James. I would like a list of which agencies are included in that 379,925 number.
Okay, I'll email that as well.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Ms. Lisa, Mayor Kilgore, we'll move on, please.
Lisa Strickland. If there's no more questions on the citywide initiatives, we'll jump into the departmental requests. Our first department is facilities maintenance. On each slide, you'll see included, recommended, or excluded delay. We'll also identify the funding source for the items that are included. Operating is just that, the operating funds would fund that. This would be taxes, sales tax, any kind of operating funding source. Allocation means this particular position that's being recommended, facilities maintenance equipment operator, the utility funds share a portion of that expense. So we allocate that out because they serve the whole city. So the utility funds pay their share of the cost. And fund balance, that's that $3 million that we appropriated from fund balance. These items are one-time expenses that we just pull out of fund balance. For the facilities maintenance department, as I mentioned, we are proposing a new position. We're also proposing tree replacements downtown, bathroom partitions to get rid of the old metal ones at Bazemore and J. Ray Shute, and replacing the lobby. Ma'am.
Councilwoman Anthony, I just a note, that is the Winchester Center. I think it would be good if you appropriately named the buildings.
Oh, okay. Yes, ma'am. This is Lisa Strickland. We're replacing the windows at the front lobby of the Dickerson Gym. We're replacing the roof of the Mars Meeting Room, which is Dickerson, and the Bazemore Center, which is the Winchester. I don't know if it was in reference to just a specific building. I'm not sure. Excluded or delayed were some ADA improvements to city facilities and city hall parking lot amenities, which included benches and trash cans and bollards. Any questions on this one?
Lisa,
Mayor Kilgore.
Go ahead, Mayor.
Mayor Kilgore, Lisa, on the tree replacements downtown, we replace so many each year, or how many does this $30,000 replace? I could plant a forest.
I'm going to ask for Brian's help with
I'm
this
being,
question.
I'm being mischievous there a little bit. I don't think I can do that.
Council, this is Brian Bourne, Assistant City Manager. Those replacement funds have been ongoing for a few years, and each year we try to replace about 6 to 8 trees with those funds.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Holloway, Brian, those must be money trees then. I
Yeah,
would like to see us include the ADA improvements. We need to provide opportunity for all our citizens to enter our city facilities with that by use of ramps, if they're confined to a wheelchair or whatever. So I'd like for us to include that, the ADA improvements. I think that's very important to the quality of life of all of our citizens.
Councilwoman Anthony, I agree with that.
Mayor Kilgore, some of the other council members may have gotten the same thing I got. A couple of days ago, I got some information about, seemed like it was grant money to help with ADA stuff. Did anyone else get that through their email by chance?
Councilwoman Anthony, I did not.
I'll see if I can go back and find that, but there's something on the funding for ADA. I'll see if I can locate that. I didn't know where anybody else had received that or not, but just a few days back. But I'll check into that. I didn't mean to butt in on you, Marion, but I want to get that across to the staff too.
Mayor Brian Bourne again, Assistant City Manager. If I may clarify things on the tree replacement, that includes a lot of sidewalk and great work in addition to the tree replacement. So it's not all the cost for just the trees. There are sidewalk improvements that go on around there, creating a frame for the grate. So it's all inclusive of the whole replacement process.
Hey, Brian,
Yes, sir.
Councilman Kazar here. You look like you're on 3D on this picture you on the computer.
Am I on 3D?
Mhm. There you go. You're back normal now.
Mayor Kilgore, Lisa, we'll continue, please.
Hey, it's Councilwoman James. Lisa, the two numbers, the 30,000 and 25, take the 5 off. It's 55,000 and 30. Unless there's a 500 in there somewhere, I'm missing.
No. It's the typo. Lisa Strickland. The next department, if there's no more on facilities, is the finance department. These are all personnel changes. Looking to add a utility billing field technician to handle a lot of the additional volume due to construction, addition of new homes. This includes the vehicle. It's paid for by the utility funds. We're also asking to change the customer service representative. We have a part-timer, 20 hours. We'd like them to be full-time and increase the hours for our warehouse clerk buyer from 30 hours to 40 hours. Those two are also utility funded.
Councilwoman Anthony, just a brief question. The change customer service representative from part-time to full-time, the rationale, please?
Just the increased call volume, just coverage in the office for walk-ins and phone calls.
So basically, the person answers the phone and just like meets citizens to come in with questions and things?
Yes, it's all regarding their utility bills.
And let me ask you this too, there is a call-in system, telephone system. With that in place, go on with what you know, because you know what the need is greater than I, but do you feel that that's warranted?
I do. Some days it has been a struggle to cover lunches, and it increases wait times on both the telephone and folks sitting in the lobby.
Okay, thank you.
Lisa Strickland, continuing to the next department, is Human Resources. Human Resources is requesting a Human Resources Analyst. This position is partially allocated. They're also asking for some temporary labor to help them in updating some of their policies, some internship positions. They're doing the classification and compensation study next year. And there may be a need for some new office space for the new staff. We are not funding the human resources manager at this time. Any questions on this slide?
It's Councilwoman Anthony. These internship positions will be paid positions. I'm just wondering if we thought about the opportunity of connected with Wingate University, SPCC, to use students for those proposed positions, since they will be getting credit hours and experience. That's just an idea. Thank you.
This is Larry Faison, City Manager. If there's interest, I'd invite Deborah to elaborate more in detail, but you may recall she covered the idea at the retreat and of kind of a job skills program. And Deborah I noticed if Deborah was on, but Deborah, if you're there, could you maybe offer a little bit more insight on what we hope to accomplish with that element?
Yes, this is Deborah Chestnut Reed. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good evening. So we talked about basically trying to have a job development program and looking at our community in a sense in terms of students. Those internship students wouldn't necessarily be placed in human resources. It would be finding positions within our workforce in different departments to determine whether or not we can start training students and trying to make this a rotating program, whether it's intern or cooperative education, which would be more of a continuous 3 to 6 months, and intern more part-time. Also being able to look at that as one bridge of diversity at the same time for our general population. So we had talked about that a number of different times, even in terms of when we talked about diversity and inclusion and trying to train students at an early age to have the technical skills that we need to move forward with starting with a small group, but then trying to increase as we go along. So this is kind of the small step.
Okay, Councilwoman Amt again, I thoroughly agree with that. I misunderstood. I thought it was positioned in human resources, but that is a great idea.
Thank you.
Councilwoman James here. I'm looking at the classification and compensation study. Looking at the funding sources is fund balance. Why wasn't operating chose for that?
Lisa Strickland, it's a one-time study. So we just funded it from fund balance. That's it for human resources. If there's no more questions, move on to engineering, street department. On this division, we are proposing a construction inspector. This is the position that Sarah mentioned earlier that would inspect roads in the new subdivisions as they're coming online, new construction. That cost does include a vehicle. We're also proposing to increase vehicle maintenance and an ongoing project. This is a multi-year project, the Operations Center parking lot. This is the general fund's share. Excluded or delayed are an administrative assistant, Haynes Street streetscape, which is sidewalks on Haynes Street, conversion of Jefferson and Franklin, the one-way to two-way, Street maintenance workers, 2 of them, and a street sign technician are not funded. Sidewalk maintenance program is not funded for this year. Restriping the parking lots and on-street parking is not included. Equipment shelters, the downtown parking study, the pavement condition index survey, which was last done in 2016. The request to continue annual street resurfacing and additional resurfacing. Both of those would be covered by the tax increase if that would be approved. But at this time, as Larry indicated earlier, they are not included in the budget.
Councilwoman Abbey, I have a question on the conversion of Jefferson and Franklin Street from one-way to two-way. For quite some time, we've been discussing that, and I was thinking it was in the plan for our next fiscal year. But I would like for us to reconsider it.
Councilman McGee, I totally agree. I know we've been talking about that for a while now, and I think that we do need to move forward, especially with the new developments that we have going on in our downtown. And I also would like to add, make some consideration in looking at the downtown Monroe parking study. I know, Mr. Bourne, you can attest that we've been having complaints about parking in our downtown forever. And, I think I've spoken to a couple of council members about this in the past, with us having the Center Theater and the Science Center in our downtown. I just don't want parking to be an issue for our guests who are coming to our downtown for events, whether it be at the Center Theater, especially at the Center Theater, where their clothing may be nicer. If it's a nicer event, maybe something a little more formal, and they have to walk, for a couple of blocks to attend those events. And I know, Charlotte and other places, people are used to walking, but I really would love to see if we can do a study to see if there's something that we need to add, maybe a parking garage or something of that nature to be able to accommodate our guests who are coming out to enjoy the festivities, mainly the Center Theater, and other things in our downtown. I would just love for us to reconsider that and go ahead and at least do the study to see if that's something that we need. And then we can base our decision on the study moving forward. That's my recommendation.
Mayor Kilgore, Lisa, while we're on the engineering page, I see Haynes Street here comes up, and this is probably a question for Ms. Sarah. Has DOT still got the plans, or have they already issued contracts to repave Haynes Street? I know they said that was in the works. I'm just wondering where we at on that now.
Yes, sir. This is Sarah McAllister. My last correspondence with them was that was to be awarded in March. And I believe that contract time will expire next year. So it is included in their current contract.
So the contract was awarded in March?
Yes, sir.
Wonder when, I know you probably don't know, what their schedule is to get it paved down there. That street is absolutely terrible.
I can inquire. They can't control the contractor's work. That's why I believe that contract does expire in 2022, and they'll have up to that time to schedule their work.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I understand that they can't require when or whatever. I just thought maybe we might know something that, of course, we got several streets DOT needs to pave also, but at Haynes Street there at that intersection is absolutely, it's past awful, as everybody knows. But anyway, thank you there. I appreciate that.
Yes, sir.
Okay, move right along if you will, please.
This is Lisa Strickland.
Lisa, Freddie Gordon, I'm sorry, I was muted and I apologize. Could I just ask one more question on engineering?
Yes.
Yeah, that conversion of Jefferson and Franklin for planning, that's all that is planning, 360,000. Is that correct, Sarah?
Yes, sir.
Councilman Gordon, if I could clarify, this is Brian Bourne, Assistant City Manager. The conversion of Jefferson and Franklin for that 360, when we first did the master plan, there was a study done by Ramey Kemp on that conversion. This funding would update that study and revise our options and the cost estimates for the conversion. So that funding is only for that study.
That's my point exactly. And if I'm remembering correctly, in the actual execution of it was several, I do not remember the exact numbers, but several millions of dollars to accomplish. Is that not correct?
You are correct. This is Brian Bourne. The actual design and engineering construction drawings would be in the $1.2, $1.5 million range just to get the drawings and documents done. The actual construction, of course, it depends on when it goes out to bid and pricing and everything, but construction estimates are at the 10 to $12 million to actually implement and construct the project. So it's a big capital investment. It would be ongoing for a number of months. So it's a lot to do and consider.
Mayor Kilgore, I think it costs 15 million to do it now.
Right.
I don't have any.
And of course, we'd have to get that worked into, the CRTPO and all those other plans. NCDOT was supportive of the project back in 2009, 2010. And I think Sarah can clarify some of that process, or Lisa.
Mayor Kilgore again, unless we're ready to do that, and I don't think we are, it's 50, whatever million it's going to be. I don't think we need to spend the $360,000 to get an update. I know probably the update is now. I wouldn't spend $360,000 for the planning of the conversion of it unless I was ready to pull the trigger on all of it. We wasted $360,000.
Councilman McGee, so when do we see that we're going to consider that? I mean, it's been already almost 20 years since we've considered it, and and let's just be honest. This hasn't been a priority for our city for some reason, and I think right now, especially right now with the development, especially going on down there at 5 Points with the science center and things of that nature. I think we need to really try to concentrate and really focus on trying to slow down that traffic. With the kids that's going to be down at our science center, with more activity that's going to be down that way, I think we need to really consider trying to figure out a way, whether it be a grant or some type of other financing, to see if we can really seriously consider this conversion that we've been speaking on for a couple of decades. Because I just feel like there's we keep belaboring the process, and it's not going to ever get done if we never plan for it in that respect. So with the development that's going on down there, if I've just stated, I think we do need to kind of consider doing that, if not for anything else, but just for safety and slowing down the traffic, because people speed through Franklin Street and downtown, like there on the racetrack. So we just really need to consider thinking about doing that more so sooner than later, in my opinion.
Okay. Councilwoman Anthony here. I realize we have to be good steward of the city's finances, but I know a study has already been done, and evidently that was wasted because we didn't do anything after we got the study. And maybe this is not a good time, and I wouldn't waste money on a study unless I was ready to move on. But I think we need to be more proactive in that vein. And if we don't get ready to do it, then we consider doing, if we can't do both of them, I think we need to consider doing at least Franklin, or preparing to do it at least by next year.
This Councilwoman James want to make a statement or a question I know it was talk about tearing down the old homeless shelter down there and turning it into parking. So looking at safety there, how would people cross the road from there to cross over? So that's just something to think about as well.
Well, this is Councilman Gordon. I'll end my statement this way. It is excluded in this budget proposal. I would propose that it stay that way. And I don't think in any of our lifetimes you will ever see us spending $15+ million to do something when we are eliminating restriping of a parking lot at $10,000. I mean, let's get real here. It's priority, and that's really low on the priority as far as I'm personally concerned, and it could go away altogether. I don't think it would change anything
This is
in the conversation.
This is Larry Faison, City Manager. If y'all might recall in your budget retreat, this item didn't rank considerably in among your top 5 or top 10, I believe. It did not. That's not to say that your priorities may have changed, but if they do change and you want to see this advance, I would just generally characterize it as a project of a magnitude probably in excess of what we're getting ready to put out to bid in the form of a police headquarters building, which council raised taxes to fund the debt service. It is a huge project, and along with what has been already basically stated, spend 360 if you're ready to do the project. And what would demonstrate you're ready to do the project is allocating future tax revenues towards the ultimate construction of the project, which could take, as Brian generally alluded to, 2 or 3 more years to get it, if we started today, to get it worked into the CRTPO and STIP funding mechanisms, or list of projects for consideration. So it's not necessarily a simple undertaking, and I don't think anyone's really said that it was, but it's not a simple undertaking, and it would take a multi-year commitment of faith, emotion, and finances.
Okay, any other questions, any other comments on the two-way street? If not, Ms. Lisa, we'll move on.
Lisa Strickland. So I'm understanding that we leave out the conversion. Was there any other support for the downtown Monroe parking study? Or are we leaving that out?
Mayor Kilgore, there was a study done, I believe, several years ago. In fact, Councilman McGee may recall, I don't know what year that was, and maybe Assistant Manager Brian Bourne would remember. They did a study, or they talked about a parking garage. And that was also about like changing those streets, millions of dollars, cost several $1,000s per parking space. Councilman McGee or Assistant Manager, do you call in that study? I'm trying to bring it up.
Brian Bourne, Assistant Manager here. Mayor, that was some time ago. We worked with McLaren, who's a parking consultant during Greg Dimko's tenure here. We engaged them. They did a little, I guess, pro bono work for us in that regard, looking at all of the parking downtown and potential garage parking structures. It really wasn't a study. It was just a proposal on how we could implement some paid parking rather than free parking, which we would have to do if we ever propose a structure to park. And you are correct. Each space in a parking structure is around $22,000 a space. So you're looking at a couple of $1 million to do a parking structure of any significance, if not more.
Okay. I knew there was a study or something, Mayor Kilgore, I knew there was a study or something. I couldn't recall what it was.
Mayor, this is Larry Faison. Just as a sidebar point, I think it was referenced that the pavement condition index survey had not been conducted for 5, 6, 7 years. Actually, with some surplus funds, it was wedged in this fiscal year, and consequently, I didn't. That was a reason I used to not fund it back to back two consecutive fiscal years. Ideally, engineering would recommend doing it every year, but I chose to reconsider it a year from now. I'm not sure if the study's been completed, but we had some surplus funds through a very attractive bid situation for the repaving contract, and used some of those funds and earmarked it. And I think maybe the Public's Enterprise Committee members may recall that, but in a point aside, so the survey is there was one underway or done this fiscal year.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Any more questions on that? Hearing none, Miss Lisa, we'll move along.
Lisa Strickland. Okay, so no changes to engineering. If there's no more questions, we will move on to their next slide, which is to have an update to the fee schedule. Engineering is requesting a re-review fee for engineering plans. This would be charged on the third resubmittal and would increase incrementally by $200 for each submittal thereafter. This is for folks that don't update their plans and then just keep submitting it. And engineering has to spend time finding the errors in their plans after they've made recommendation for changes, and they just don't incorporate them for whatever reason. That's it for engineering. Moving along, planning and community development. We are proposing a planner to be added to the planning department. We are not funding any of the implementation for the Concord Avenue redevelopment area this year. Code enforcement and building standards development. We're proposing a building inspector. This includes a vehicle for the additional subdivisions and building activity that's been coming online. And we are excluding a code enforcement officer.
Lisa, Councilman Kazire here, are we in any way going to be improving our time to when a developer comes in and requests an inspection? I think the standard time is 7 to 10 days, and it's taking us 3 weeks. Could you address that, or Lisa?
Lisa Stywinter, Director of Planning and Development. I can attempt to address that. So basically, when a project is submitted, whether it's a commercial project or so forth, it's submitted through the permit center in our department, and then it's routed to various different departments for review. And those departments include fire, building, planning, engineering, water resources, energy services. So all those departments play a stake in reviewing those projects and how it meets the state requirements and the city's requirements. And those typically take 14 business days for review. I will say, due to the volume of projects and permits and inspections and the development construction that we are seeing, we are having a hard time staying on top of everything. So we are running a few weeks behind. So hopefully with with additional staff that we can provide, quicker plan review and inspection timeframes on, the building standpoint, but, there are other departments that are, reviewing these plans, and really the holdup is the permit division right now and being able to enter projects. We didn't anticipate this volume of activity, so we did not propose a permit technician in the budget for budget reasons. The budget comes very early for all of our departments, and I understand there's a lot of work that goes into the budget, but we didn't start experience a major development increase until the last few months. So we haven't proposed a new permit tech. So that's really what is driving the delay here, is the volume of permits that are being submitted, and we just don't have enough people to be able to enter them. So
Do
with
you
the,
need, Lisa, Councilman Kazire again, do you need another permit person?
well, if I had to do it over again, I would ask for a planner, a building inspector, and a permit technician.
Councilwoman Anthony, he asked for what you need.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, we're doing everything we can to try to catch up. The permit center technician girls, they're working very tirelessly to try to catch up in entering permits. They're missing lunches, they're staying late, they're working on weekends. They've really done an outstanding job of trying to continue to catch up, and we just have a lot of volume here. We haven't seen this before.
Question, Lisa. Hypothetical, let's say that you're asked, what do you need to move forward quickly that would help you right now from the council?
I need 2 planners, a building inspector, and a permit technician.
Then
Mayor Kilgore, Lynn,
I've had some calls from large builders, and I see their dilemma, and I see her dilemma in the fact, if you plan on 7 to 10 days and you're stretched out 2 weeks, time is money, and it's probably really costing those guys.
Mayor Kilgore, Lynn and Lisa, I would suggest let Lisa and the manager sit back down and talk about this thing. Number one. Number two, and I don't know if I'm gonna throw out an idea here, and I don't know how good it is. She's talking about behind on the inspections and so forth. If this budget, we should vote to include one of those. We're not 2 or 3 months off. I was just wondering if maybe if the manager seemed fit and Lisa could show where she would need it. Go ahead and do the advertising now, because if you wait to July to do advertising, you're not going to have him on board to October or whatever. And I'm just throwing that out there for a scenario. I would think we need to refer Lisa to the city manager, let them sit down and talk about it, get that worked out, and bring it back in the next time we discuss the budget.
Councilwoman Anthony, I agree. Lisa's right there doing the work every day. She can see, where our weaknesses are. And we need to keep in mind that affects the quality of customer service that we're giving. So I think that's really, really important. I would encourage her to go ahead and request what she needs.
Councilmember McGee, I totally agree. And I know Lisa has been requesting this for a while now. And I know budget has been an issue and it still remains an issue, but with the development that's going on, and I agree with Councilmember Kazire, we definitely don't want to tee off developers who are trying to do business here in Monroe, and they feel like they're being inconvenienced by us not being able to process. So I feel like that's something that we can take care of by hiring the proper staff to be able to accommodate our customers, to make sure that everything is done in an efficient manner, to assure that our customers are being dealt with the ultimate customer service as much as possible.
Councilwoman Anthony, I have a question, and maybe this is not the best time to ask it. With our building inspector, do we have an inspector for commercial buildings? I know recently we had a complaint from previous commercial client. And then we didn't have anybody, or we didn't have a policy about commercial buildings. So with the event that we get a new building inspector, would that be part of their responsibility?
All of our building, and Lisa Stywinter, all of our building inspectors perform residential and commercial inspections on new constructions, additions, renovations, change of businesses. I think that particular instance that you're speaking of was more of a nuisance type inspection enforcement that we don't have staffing for, or programs or funding set up for that particular instance that you're speaking of.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor, Councilman Kazai here. I agree with Miss Anthony and Mr. McGee. It's apparent that we got a problem, and that we need to address that one in pretty serious manner and right away.
Well, that's why I made, Mayor Kilgore, that's why I made the suggestion, Lisa, being a department head, get with the manager and talk about it and work it out. And if he needs an inspector, and if any money that goes that 2 or 3 months extra, that, of course, for them to work out and bring it back when we have the next budget discussion.
When Councilman Kazai here again, when we're gonna have another budget discussion?
That we got a schedule. Mayor Kilgore, Larry, you have that rather handy. I know we got a schedule.
Yeah, it's May.
This is Larry Faison. Later in this slide sequence is the outline of the budget process, and your May meeting. I believe there's a call for the public hearing, and you certainly could, separate from that, you could certainly allocate some time at the strategic to talk about budget if you so desired.
Mayor, again, this is Councilman Kazire. I look at these meetings as to address issues, and this is surely one of them. And I think we need to understand and move with it pretty quickly.
Well, we will, Mayor Kilgore, that's what we're going to be doing, address it pretty. It wouldn't be any quicker if we made it tonight and come back in the May budget to talk about it, sir.
No, you're right.
All right, it wouldn't be any quicker. So that's my recommendation. Also, I'll close on that. Any other questions on that? If not, I want to back up and ask the question about the Concord Avenue.
Yeah, but before you leave this subject, Councilman Gordon here again, could we also, and I would agree that we don't necessarily have to use the council meetings for this. This is, if this is that important, then this is something that we need to be talking about in the strategic planning meeting. Some of this stuff could be put off, and this is time sensitive because the budget has to be approved before July 1st. That's all good and fine. Now, secondly, as you come forward with this information, this would be for Lisa Stywinter, Lisa, our finance director, and Mr. Faison, our manager. How much of the expense that these people incur is covered through fee? That would be important to me in making a decision about the cost of adding these people. You know, we've already stated that 1 cent is on 1 cent will raise 450,000. You hire 4 people, you've blown a penny on it, and so it's just a lot to be considered, really.
Well, I'm sure, Mayor Kilgore, I'm sure they'll bring that back up. What if for permit center, any of it can pick that up like the other. I'm sure that'll be brought up, but however, I'll leave that open for any other discussion.
This is Larry Faison. The fees that we take in do not cover the cost of plans and inspections. So let me put that. It is an amount of money, but it's not going to cover additional people. It doesn't cover the funding of the department as it stands today. And Lisa or either of the two Lisas can take a deep dive on that point, but Of the 4 positions that I think I heard referenced, 2 planners, an inspector, and a permit tech, 2 of those positions are already baked into the budget. So it would be an additional 2 is what was being discussed. It looks like it's roughly another $200,000, $200,000 to $250,000, which equates to about a half a penny on a tax rate, or reducing operating expenditures somewhere else. And so I would look forward to hearing your interest on those things to remove that, to make room for the additional positions.
Okay. Any other discussion on that?
Mayor Pro Tem Holloway, I understand what Manager Faison is saying about fees, but maybe this might be a time also, with the building activity as high as it is, to maybe revisit what our fees are. So I'd ask Lisa Stylewinter, when she meets with you, Larry, for y'all maybe to take a look at that. Let's discuss that further.
Okay. Mayor Kilgore, anyone else got a comment on that? If not, I'd like to, well, I'm still on the same page, but I'd like to ask about the Concord Avenue, the redevelopment. I see that's on delay, and question to Lisa, or maybe our manager, the money we had appropriated last year, has that already been spent on the sidewalk and et cetera?
Lisa Stylewinter, Planning Director. The sidewalk along the Concord Avenue that everyone sees as being installed now, that was part of our community development block grant. So there, if I remember, there were no fundings out of that Concord Avenue project fund that was used for that sidewalk.
Okay, Mayor Kilgore again, did we not have $500,000 in that budget last year or for this fiscal year?
I believe, and I have to go back and look, Lisa Stylewinter, I believe we did request funding in last budget year, and I believe it was cut as well. We do have some project funds that are in the Concord Avenue project now. We are trying to pursue, we've purchased 5 properties in the past and demolished those to clean the area up. We're trying to pursue and negotiate 5 additional properties with one single property owner. So we are in negotiation with a property owner to see if we can't purchase those and possible an additional one. But we do have some funding in that project funds, but we have not received any. We didn't receive any last year.
Well, I can't keep up with the dates and stuff. And last year or year before budget, I know we talked about it in the 4 o'clock session 2 or 3 times. At one time, I think there was a couple of years, there's some money put in that fund for that over there. It seemed like we had $500,000. And if I remember correctly, some of those houses was bought out of that money, or some of that money. Am I correct on that?
You are correct, Lisa Stylewinter, and I believe we have roughly maybe $360,000 left in the project fund.
That was Mayor Kilgore. That's $500,000 I was talking about. All right, we still got, if we got $300,000 in there, and we delay this, we've been working on this project for how many years? Long as I can remember.
Lisa Stylewinter here. The revitalizing that area, yes, it's been a process since 2005, or a goal of the city's. We did adopt the Concord Avenue Master Plan and Overlay District that has an action plan built into it to implement that vision. But we've made some accomplishments there of acquiring property and building a sidewalk and having a piece of property donated that we can develop a beautification space. We are looking to try to purchase 5 or 6 additional properties to clean the area up. The next goal is to try to move forward with some of the transportation improvements within the area. But due to workload and in funding, we are kind of we're kind of in the weights right now.
Okay, we've got enough money to finish that sidewalk, have we not?
This, I do believe we have enough money to finish the sidewalk. Yes, sir. Lisa Stywinter.
So, Mayor Kilgore again, so there won't be anything else done until another year, another budget, is that correct?
Lisa Stywinter, we still are pursuing properties to acquire in that area with the amount of funding we have left.
Okay. Well, I know that.
This is Larry Faison. You know, if a significant need is demonstrated, we'll certainly bring it to council and if need be, recommend using fund balance. It's just at the time I saw the needs as elsewhere and there was money in their project fund that could be more fully utilized. So I placed the need elsewhere to allocate resources, but subject to council's direction, we can shift that priority.
Yeah, Mayor Kilgore, I know things cost a lot of money, but you know, that area over there, we've been working on that and talking about that for 15 or 20 years. We finally got a sidewalk over there, bought 2 or 3 houses and tore them down. We need to get that, at some point, we're gonna have to step up to the plate. And again, I know it costs money. I understand all that, but are we gonna ever finish that project is what I'd like to see it finished some point or another. Okay, anyway, enough of that. We'll work on that down the road. I'll be talking more about that. Mayor Kilgore, Lisa, any other questions on that? If not, we'll move on. Thank you, Lisa.
Councilwoman James, Lisa and your staff, just appreciate all your efforts that you're doing. I know you're short staffed and all of that, with all the developing and everything that's going on. So appreciate all that y'all doing in that area.
Lisa Stywinter, thank you. I appreciate that.
Okay.
This is Lisa Strickland, Finance Director. Okay, I guess we'll come back with some needs for the permit tech and the additional planner. Moving along, the next department is our police department. In the police department, we are proposing 4 full-time positions effective January 2022. We're also proposing equipment for the civil disturbance unit and an increase to our vehicle maintenance budget. We are not proposing a crime scene technician position or an additional canine budget.
Councilwoman, the K9 budget, please explain that. It's 14,000. Why is that not included?
It was for the vet, food, equipment for the canines. I think they were absorbing it right now in their budget. Larry chose not to provide additional funding for that purpose.
Mayor Kilgore, that's my understanding. They pay for it out of whatever fund, out of some other line item there in the police department.
Councilmember McGee, I have a question. What is the equipment for the civil disturbance unit? What is that exactly?
Brian, can you help me with that?
Sure. Brian Gilliard, Police Chief. Councilmember McGee, that will be for helmet, body protection gear from knee pads to shin pads and various equipment that we would need for that unit.
Councilwoman Anthony, I have a question. Chief Gilliard.
Yes, ma'am.
2 years ago, I know the Department of Justice gave equipment to a lot of police departments. Did we not receive any of those protective gears that they were passing out?
No, ma'am, not that I'm aware of. We did not receive any of those.
Do they have recommended gear that departments should have?
Yes, ma'am, they do. And we send our officers to Anniston, Alabama to be trained by the federal government. They have a training facility there. It's free, no cost to us. Our only expense would be to give the equipment and uniforms for the officers.
Mayor Kilgore, Chief Brian.
Yes, sir.
This Councilman Anthony's question. Correct me if I'm wrong or help me finish it out. About 2 years ago, some federal agency made a proposal or somebody to stop the federal government from giving the police department any of that equipment. You recall what I'm trying to say?
No, sir, not right now. I know that they had different types of like vest and stuff that was surplus to the military, but I do not know really right off the top of my head what that would detail for us.
Well, it was military equipment that they was given to some local, not local, given to various police departments.
Yes,
And
sir.
someone in the federal government, I don't remember who it was. I thought maybe you might could help me with that. But anyway, they stopped giving that stuff out to the police departments.
We haven't participated in that program, Mayor, and just for several different reasons, but we haven't. I'm not enough familiar with it to speak on it.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
This Councilwoman James, Chief, question for you. Great job that y'all doing in the community. Appreciate the relationships, the partnerships you building. I know we always talk community policing been in concern as well with the new police officers you request, and what would the roles of those officers be?
That I would like to assign them to the community police division so that they would be having to be in a permanent community. And so that officer will be responsible for that area. If we're approved for these positions, we'll go ahead and move forward and getting those officers assigned, especially with the summertime coming up. We'd like
Yes.
we have some of the officers over there. So we're hoping to get the additional staffing to have them officers assigned to each individual community.
Councilwoman James, again, support that. So thank you so much.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions on that? Comments? Not Ms. Lisa, we'll move on.
This is Lisa Strickland. Moving along. Next department is the fire department. Recommended for the fire department are 3 fire captains for Fire Station 6. These would come online in January of 2022. As I think Larry mentioned earlier, the Fire Station 6 engineers and firefighters that are excluded below, there's a total of 12 positions there. These are the positions that were applied for the SAFER grant. We should get some results of that grant application in the fall. If we would get the grant, then we would remove this funding and shift it over to the grant funding. The next item is education incentives. This is phase 3 of a 3-part program that Chief is implementing. He is also putting a professional development incentive program or a career ladder in place for staff, and has proposed fire station renovations at stations 1, 2, and 5. This would be to the living areas at those locations. Also excluded are fire shift safety and training captains, fencing for the training grounds, storage buildings, a pickup truck for Medic 6, the fire station number 3 renovation and sprinkler system, and a fire engine for station 6. Funded, the tax increase could fund a portion of that fire engine. Any questions for Chief or about the fire department? Okay, moving on, the next department is our IT department. We are recommending a technical administrative specialist. This will help with workload. IT is just inundated with new software programs and new facilities coming online. Need some extra help to cover all their bases. They're also adding various pieces of equipment. The Blade chassis runs the servers in the data center. They're asking for storage for the video cameras. This Cortex Pro Threat Prevention is for virus protection. The Evante Endpoint Manager is to deploy software to the users. And the Identity Director Maintenance is to automate the permissions process. They have a Microsoft Data Center core increase, which is licensing. Aruba Wireless Editions. This is for the wireless networks at different facilities. Rack replacement, it's just that, a rack with more power output. And a fiber optics for network backbone. That's the big ticket item there. Those are trans receivers. They'll complete the installation of the network core switches and fiber system. Bruce would have to tell you more about that. Any questions there?
Lisa, Mayor Pro Tem Holloway, the storage for video cameras, I knew when I saw this yesterday evening, I was just wondering how many cameras do we have, and is there a substitute? I know if it's on here, it's needed, but exactly what's involved in the storage for cameras is around $60,000.
This is Larry Faison. Storage. That's the digital version of a video, and the storage, like a hard drive. That's the storage capability, as I understand it. And in the police department, I mean, we're consuming. They're consuming storage demand, making storage demands from 24/7 operations using body cams and vehicle cams as an example. But the broader organization also has incredible storage needs and demands. And this, as I understand it, this addresses that function. So it's not the rack for a camera, it's the storage, digital storage, virtual storage. Okay?
Mayor Pro Tem Holloway, I understand that. What we were making really is our own cloud. In other words, we store things in that. I was thinking physical storage, not digital. Thank you very much.
This is Bruce Bounds, the IT department. We have right now about 133 cameras in city facilities, and that with the new police department coming online, that will significantly increase, along with the science center and the center theater. Each one of those facilities has cameras also, so we're having to we have to have storage to store those cameras. We try to keep video for 90 days, and that takes a lot of space.
This Councilwoman James, I think last budget we talked about the sound, Bruce, with everything in the chamber and in the conference room. Is there anything included in the budget to fix any of that stuff that we suggested?
This Bruce Bounds with the IT department. That would be under Pete's budget, so that's not necessarily IT, but I believe I would defer to Larry or Pete on that one.
This is Larry Faison. I don't recall funding that. It's in terms, it came up more recently as a possible area or need on operating as a virtually, conducting meetings virtually. But we've kind of, for the most part, gotten through that 9 months or so in the back, looking backward. So the need, the value or the benefit is still out there, but I did not allocate funds to, I don't recall allocating funds to upgrade what's in the council chambers or to expand the capability or capacity in the conference room. But in a couple of slides, I think we get to Pete's area, and we could take a deeper dive then if council would like.
Councilwoman James, thank you.
Okay, Lisa Strickland. That's it for information technology. Moving on to the next department is recreation and park maintenance. Included and recommended in this budget is a facilities maintenance worker That includes the vehicle, effective January of 2022. Don Griffin Park Greenway repair. This is due to failing asphalt. Painting at the rec centers. This is at the entrance to Sutton and Winchester. It's also the interior of the gym at J. Ray Shoot and the exterior of the gym at Dickerson. And then
Mayor Kilgore, I have a question, Ms. Lisa. On the Don Griffin Greenway repair, why is that asphalt giving out? It ain't been down there but a couple of years, if that long.
Lisa, this is Tanya, Parks and Recreation. I'll take that if you want me to. Actually, Mayor Kilgore, that is the oldest section of Greenway, and that asphalt was installed probably about 15 years ago. It's not any of the new Greenway work that we've done recently. So that is a very old section of Greenway there that we're talking about. We've got some failing asphalt.
Is that there at the old mill? Is that where that started, at the old mill?
That's correct.
Now, where is the old part at?
That's it. That's where we did that section. Our very first section was called the Bearskin Creek Phase 1. And again, that was done somewhere, don't hold me to it, it's 12 to 15 years ago. That was the very first section. And then we didn't do any Greenway work for many, many years until
Well, I was thinking that portion there, then if that's the old portion, it only run from the mill there to the park then, is that correct?
That's correct. It ran from over where the shelter is in the Don Griffin Park over to where we hooked onto it at Skyway Drive.
Okay, I thought you were talking about that new stuff. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Councilwoman Anthony, just a note, I agree with delaying a Winchester picnic shelter because that's quite expensive. But I would like to note that there is no playground equipment at the Winchester complex. And I would like to see something there because there's a lot of children in that area. And there's nothing for them to play on.
Councilmember Anthony, yes, the shelter, as we discussed it with the city manager, I know the Winchester committee was meeting to try to decide what to do with the property across the street, that parking area. And I'm not sure, I know due to COVID and some other things, I'm not sure where that's at. We're unsure and wanted to kind of delay the picnic shelter. And we've also had lots of discussion about playground equipment and various things in that area. But kind of holding off and waiting until a decision's kind of made on what you guys want to do with the area across the street before we move too far with putting anything on the backside of that area. Right now, that's the only place we would have to add a shelter or playground equipment would be on the Fairley Avenue side. So I'm not sure what council's feelings are on that, but I'm certainly open to your suggestions.
Okay. I would note that we're told that there can be nothing built on that area across from the center. I don't know if that will help or not, but we're told that nothing can be built there.
Councilmember Gibbon, I think we can have parks or something like that, Councilwoman Anthony. I think you're correct. I don't think we can have any enclosed buildings, but I think we can have parks and passive parks and things of that nature, if I'm not mistaken. I think that was the discussion where Jim told us that during one of our meetings with the Winchester community, meetings. Because I think it had something to do with the sound and things of that nature. And
well, it was several things because there had been some oil companies. It was afraid of what might be underground. Came up about it, like Indian redwoods, a lot of strange things, but
yeah.
Okay.
Okay, Lisa Strickland. The next two items that are included are the automated gate system and the fencing replacement at the maintenance shop. This is because of break-ins and just a security issue for them. Excluded, the Christmas tree lighting, Kubota utility vehicle, the cameras at both Tonawanda, resurfacing basketball courts at Dickerson, the Dickerson restroom renovation and control link, the playground equipment at Creft, bleacher replacement at Sunset Park, flash cam upgrade, pruning on the hillside at Belk Tonawanda, and that Winchester picnic shelter.
This Councilwoman James, I'd like to make a note of the resurfacing at the basketball court. We have done a lot of improvements out there, the tennis courts. We have redone the paving, got parking out there, so it looks great. But the basketball court, I think that needs to be something done to that. I know that we got the chain links out there that needs to be replaced, and there's broken pavement out there because I regularly go out there and participate in that. And I see other people using that a lot. So I think we need to make that improvement there. So I would like to see that included in the budget. And also I want some feedback on the cameras at Belk Tawana Park. Why wasn't that included?
This is Larry Faison. I didn't make it a priority.
Councilwoman James, let me ask Tanya about that. So Tanya, what was your thoughts on the cameras at the Belk Tawana Park? Like, was it safety? Like, have people been complaining? Like, what was the reason by putting that in the budget?
Yeah, these were video cameras. As you guys will remember, we probably Tanya Edwards, Parks Recreation. But these were video cameras to put on the shelter, and they were security cameras, security video cameras.
Okay, Councilwoman James, thank you.
Councilmember McGee, I wanted to ask about the water fountains. I don't know if I'm mistaken, but I thought that was in the budget for last year to go ahead and move forward with replacing water fountains and adding water fountains in our parks to make sure that our participants were able to be hydrated while participating and playing out there. Am I not mistaken that was budgeted for last year?
Tanya Edwards, Councilman McGee, yes, that is correct. And the reason we have not moved forward with that, we actually purchased those water fountains as soon as that was approved in our budget last July. We did not put them in because we were under COVID restrictions, and one of their guidelines or the recommendations is to not have open water fountains right now. And we have checked on that again. That is still the recommendation of the CDC. So we've decided we're holding off until they, kind of make that recommendation. But we have the contract, we have everything in place with the plumber. We're ready to go. We're just waiting on, we didn't want to put them out there and put closed signs on them. So that's the reason for the delay.
Gotcha. And I appreciate that. But yeah, I had sent emails with that request, and I had a couple of people that were requesting that as well, and I didn't get a response. So I was unsure about where we were with that. So thanks for that update. If you could maybe send me something on that so I can share with the constituents that are asking, so that we can just kind of be transparent and let them know where we are, what we're thinking, because it does make sense for us not to put them out there, especially if we're going to put close signs on them. But that is information that I think we need to disclose to the public.
Yes, sir. Tanya Edwards again. I'll be happy to send that information.
Thank you.
Okay, Lisa Strickland. If there's no more questions on Parks and Recreation, we can move along. Tanya is requesting some fee schedule changes, facility rental fees. We have some athletic field rental increases for tournament play and special events. This is to better recover our costs that are associated with the various events or activities that are being held there. We'd also like to remove the amphitheater as a standalone rental. With the parking there, it needs to be rented with the shelter as a package. We're also proposing to increase membership fees or program fees for the after-school program and the day camp, $5 per participant. And the athletic team fees for basketball, baseball, and flag football, $10 per participant. Any question on this slide?
I got a question. I was educated that at one point, golf was allowed for students for free at one point, or for kids at one point. I don't know how long ago it was, but as a means to try to get more kids involved in golf, I think that was a program that was done to where kids or students, or I don't know how it was garnered, but where they were allowed to play golf either at a discounted rate or at a free or anything like that. Can anybody speak to that? Councilmember Keziah, Tanya, can anybody speak to anything like that? Somebody brought that to my attention at one point. I think it may have been on Wednesdays, or maybe one of the just maybe one of the days that were slower, where kids were allowed to come and play golf at a discounted rate or at a free rate. Can anybody elaborate or speak to that?
Tanya Edwards, Parks and Recreation. Council Member McGee, yes, we have a very substantial discounted rate for juniors at Monroe, probably more aggressively discounted than most other golf courses. It is $1 per hole for ages, I believe, 12 and up, and I'll have to look this up. And then it's 50 cents, I believe, times their age for the younger kids, and that is offered. There was at one time, we're being allowed to play for free, but that was not approved in the fee schedule. That was just kind of an oversight. So maybe that's what they're speaking to, but it's a very discounted rate, and it doesn't limit at any time. They're allowed to play at any time. Of course, they play with a paying adult because they have most of the time, most of the age have adults with them.
Yeah. Now, is that information, Councilmember McGee here, is that information available somewhere where that's known information, or is that listed, or how was that advertised?
Yeah, it's advertised at the golf course on the fee schedule. There's a board down there, and I need to double check that. Tanya Edwards, again, Parks and Recreation. I'll double check that and make sure that's listed, but that would have been listed on the fee schedule on the board down at the golf course.
Okay. Councilwoman Anthony here. I understand, the need to raise these fees for for youth athletics. But many families or parents are hourly wage workers, some making minimum wage, and some of them have 2 or 3 kids that desire to play one of these sports, or maybe all of them. That's a substantial increase for families that don't have much income. I don't know if there's any way that we can circumvent that or not.
Tanya Edwards, Parks and Recreation Director. Council Member Anthony, yes, we are only going up. We're going up $10, and that's the non-scholarship price. We do have a scholarship price, and that is only going up. That's going up $7, and that would take it to, for youth basketball, the cost will be $32. Which is still substantially less than any other area in the county, as far as athletic associations. And simply, we're just trying to recoup some of our operating costs. Our costs have gone, goes up every year for these sports, uniforms, officials. We're just trying to recoup. But of course, whatever council's pleasure is as far as increasing fees for those youth athletic teams.
Councilwoman Anthony, I understand that. Tell me more about the scholarship. How does a person apply for a scholarship to play these sports?
Still an application.
There's an application that they fill out. And we pretty much follow the guidelines of free and reduced lunch. So if it's the same criteria as far as the income levels for that program. At one point, we just used that as our guide. If they were on free or reduced lunch, they would bring that form into us. But what happened was a lot of the schools kind of went away, and every child in that school became eligible. So we didn't think it was fair for every child, in a particular school, if their parents could afford to pay. So that's why we implemented the actual scholarship application form. But it does follow the same guidelines, income levels, the same as for free or reduced lunch.
Okay. Would you send me one of those applications, please? I want to try to make sure it gets out in the community that is available.
Tanya Edwards, again, yes, I'll be happy to send that to you.
Okay. Thank you.
Councilmember McGee, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mr. James.
No, you go ahead.
I just wanted to ask, are rates prorated, like if parents have more than one child that are participating in athletics? Like say if you had two kids, do you have to pay the what now $45 to participate, or is there, you know, some type of way where they don't pay $90 if they want to participate? Is there any discount for multi children that are participating from one family, or has that ever been considered, or is that something that we do?
Tanya Edwards, Parks and Recreation, and Councilmember McGee, we do not discount for more than one child. And kind of the reasoning behind that has been our fees have been so low that someone could have two children most of the time participating, especially if they're on scholarship, that would still be less than what one child would pay at another area. And I just checked with Ryan Jones, about 75 to 80% of our participants are scholarship participants. So they're paying the lesser of the fees. But if that's something council would like for us to look at, we'd be more than happy to look at that.
Councilmember again here, you know, I wasn't suggesting that they get both. I mean, if you're getting a scholarship, you get a scholarship. I was thinking for somebody that may not get a scholarship who could afford it, but you know, but parents had like multi children that were participating. I totally agree. I don't feel like they should benefit from a scholarship and that particular discount if they have multi children that are participating. But you know, if you didn't receive a scholarship, I didn't know if that was an option or not. So thank you for that.
This Councilwoman James, a question for you, Tanya. Are other municipalities, towns, and parks and rec, are you seeing increases with them, or there's any talk out there about increases with their fees as well?
Tanya Edwards, Parks and Recreation, yes. Ryan Jones, our supervisor over the athletics, he did do a survey of other parks and recreation departments and to make sure that these fees were in line, and those fees are still very much in line with those other departments. We were a little less than some already, so this brings us in line with some others. So most are very comparable to what we've recommended.
Thank you.
Mayor Kilgore, any other questions or comments? Hearing none, we'll move on, Ms. Lisa, please.
Lisa Strickland. The next department is the golf course. Recommended at the golf course is a Vera cutting reel and a greens roller. We're delaying the refurbishment of the entry sign, the golf cart wash pad, and paving the equipment storage and parking area at the maintenance shop, and the replacement of the blinds in the ballroom. The golf course would like to propose adding twilight cart and green fees to the regular fee schedule. These were previously offered as specials. They've been popular, so they'd like to add them to the schedule. And also add junior tournament fees to encourage the junior tournament organizers to request time slots that are during non-peak times. Any question at the golf course?
Yeah, this Councilwoman James. Lisa, if you look at the total of included, I think it should be 30,100.
Yes.
Okay.
It might have been a typo on yours. I corrected it in the final.
Okay, thank you.
Councilwoman Anthony, what will the twilight card and green fees be?
Tanya Edwards, let me look that up for you. Our rates for the twilight, Councilmember Anthony will be 33. And that is after 12 p.m., November through March, and April through October is after 2 p.m. Okay. And then our super twilight rates, effective those same months after 4 p.m. Goes to $25. So okay. We've just made on the twilight, we did not have that in our fee schedule previously, but that was being offered on a regular basis. So we're just getting that in the fee schedule. We did have the super twilight, and we've increased those by $5. They were 20 and we're going to 25 during those time slots.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember McGee here. Ms. Tanya, can you explain what the junior tournament section is? That fee schedule change.
Tanya Edwards, Parks and Recreation. Yes, we do already have a junior tournament section. What was happening was we were kind of loose in when we allowed those to take place and what we were charging. again, we charge very low rates for junior tournaments, and we were getting a lot of requests during kind of our peak times. So we're giving some, our discounted rates are really going to be during the times where we're not as busy. But then we're going to charge more money if they do want to have one of those tournaments during one of our peak times. We do need to recover kind of what our rack rates are at the golf course. In other words, we can't manage having a tournament where we're charging, say, $20 a child during a time that we normally get $50 a golfer. So it's just about the economics of trying to maximize the amount of money that we collect there in our revenues, but still be junior friendly and offer them plenty of time slots just during non-peak time slots for those tournaments.
Thank you.
All right, Lisa Strickland, that was it for the golf course. If there's no other questions, we'll move on to Monroe Aquatics and Fitness Center. Recommended at the Aquatics and Fitness Center are just the necessary and dire needs that they need to be able to maintain that operation. That's the hot water heater in the locker rooms, replacement roof sections, and the indoor pool pump replacement. They are going to delay the indoor pool deck resurfacing.
Councilwoman, question there. I know we just did something with the pool, correct? Getting it installed and all of that. So that wasn't a part of the installing, and then the resurfacing that wasn't done all together?
Tanya Edwards, Parks and Recreation, Council Member James, no, that wasn't. This is just a resurface of the decking around the pool. What was done was we replaced put a liner in the pool. So that was inside the pool, but normally those aren't done together.
So there's not a liability issue if we delay this or hold this off any?
No, we feel like it's safe. It's just everything at the Aquatic Center. Tanya Edwards, Parks and Recreation, everything at the Aquatic Center is on a very routine schedule, or has been. We've had the luxury of being able to do all of these items to make sure we never had any deferred maintenance issues here. Unfortunately, due to COVID and the presentation that we did last or week before last, these are areas that we feel we can cut. And there are not going to be any safety issues. And of course, getting it done later is not going to cost us a whole lot more money. So we feel like this is one that was easy to delay.
Okay. Thank you.
Lisa Strickland, that concludes Monroe Aquatics and Fitness Center. Moving along, downtown Monroe. The included projects are to do with the Morgan Windsor Alley, which is under design now. We'll be closing on 108 North Main soon. And then we'll move along with the demo of 113 West Morgan and the construction as long as this is approved. Excluded or delayed is the design of the one-way street conversion, the Charlotte Lancaster Roundabout project, the Belt Tonawanda Gateway, and the downtown street furniture.
Councilwoman Anthony.
I think there. So with the demolition of 113 Main, is it attached to other buildings or does it stand alone? How would it affect the other buildings in that area?
Brian Bourne, Assistant City Manager. The building is built within the alley. It kind of caps off the alley that moves from Windsor Street into Morgan Street. There are a number of utility lines, fiber optic line. So it's a very complicated process, but that demo would include some other aspects of the Morgan Windsor Alley improvement related to the construction of that. So it's an all-inclusive process or item there. Some history on this. This is in the master plan. In 2009, the warehouse loft project was underway and completed in 2010. And with that project, we opened up the Windsor side of the alley by purchasing and demoing the building on that end to kind of help that project move forward. In more recent times, we bought the building as the end cap on Morgan Street, and we are close to closing on 108 North Main, which would provide us with the last piece of that alley in order to accomplish this improvement. So it is to the rear of the lofts. It's behind my office, and there are the vacant Monroe Hardware retail buildings are onto the other side of the Morgan Alley. And of course, you have residents above on the second and third floors of the loft building, but no commercial tenant on the bottom. And it also backs onto Collins Law Firm. The demo shouldn't interfere if it goes like the one on the Windsor side did several years ago, back in 2009, 2010. That's a delicate process, and we would take, that would be all inclusive in the construction bid.
Gotcha. It's Councilwoman James. So is that the old bank building, Brian?
That was, yes, the American Bank building where my office is. At one time, they added on to the property. And because the Belk family was involved in American Bank and also in the Monroe Hardware business, I guess they agreed to build that little addition onto this and attach it to the adjacent buildings. So that's just a little bit of history there of how it may have evolved.
Thank you.
Councilwoman Anthony, you may have already shown us, but at some point I'd like to see the design for the Morgan Windsor Alley.
Councilmember Anthony, Brian Bourne, we have just begun the design process. And in that process, we have included some community input, and part of that input, we will definitely invite council to come and make comment, and we would definitely bring that design forward for you to see.
Thank you.
Councilmember McGee here. Mr. Bourne, can you talk to me a little bit about the downtown street furniture, what that is, and what's your plan to have that on a schedule as are the tree replacements? What exactly is that?
Through Brian Bourne again, through the years, we add a little bit of street furniture every year. It's not something that's been consistent, but in the last few years, it's been something that's been funded in the budget. $10,000 would likely buy a couple of benches and a few trash cans. We try to decide what's needed most and where we could place them. There's only so many areas they can be placed. However, I think the alley improvement would have far more impact and enhance the capabilities for seating and enjoying and lingering downtown. And I would suggest, it's not much, but it's a little, every little bit helps, and foregoing that 10,000 on the street furniture in lieu of the bigger project, I don't think would be a loss or detrimental to downtown at all.
Thank you for that. And, with it just only being $10,000, I would like to see, furniture added on in our downtown. I know we have people down there, and I think it's becoming, more of a destination, which we are encouraging. And, especially on Franklin Street, down in that area, I would just love to maybe add that, since it's only $10,000, and maybe so we can place a couple more benches throughout our downtown.
Mayor Pro Tem Holloway, I agree with Franco. It's not a large amount, but it can make a large difference to shoppers. So I'd like to include that.
We'll be happy to if it's, if we can fund it. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay,
Lisa Strickland. Moving along. Any other questions downtown? Next department is stormwater. Stormwater, we've included some small construction projects by contract. Water quality project. These are stormwater control measures at the Stewart's Creek watershed. The Pinedale Road culvert replacement project. We've included a stormwater construction inspector. That price includes their vehicle. Stormwater gap analysis, which assesses the implementation of our stormwater program. Contractor inspection of the drainage system. This is using a portable camera and an equipment waste disposal facility. This is to dispose of the street sweeper waste properly. Any other questions or any questions at all on stormwater?
Lisa, Freddie Gordon here. My only question, how did that Pineville Road culvert replacement move up so high on a list? You know, when we have other things that have been deleted or not included or whatever. I mean, I'm familiar with that. I know where it is, but it's just a question.
Lisa Strickland, these are funded from the stormwater fund balance.
Okay, sorry.
Stormwater
excuse me.
fees
I thought you were
entirely.
talking about the other fund balance. Okay, all right.
Yes,
No-
I'm sorry, I should have indicated that.
Right.
We are
Okay,
done with all of the general fund balance, subsidized funds. Downtown Monroe concluded the general fund funded entities. All the rest of these have their own fees that will cover any of the projects or equipment listed on these pages.
okay, no problem. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions?
moving along.
All right, moving on, water and sewer fund. We are proposing to change the administrative assistant from a 30-hour employee to full-time, increase the lake inspector's base pay. This is their share of the resurfacing at the operations center. Contracted material labor for sewer rehab. Materials for the new meter sets and the new developments. Contracted material and labor for the water main replacements. Replacement and maintenance equipment. Repair and maintenance equipment for the water treatment plant. Repair and maintenance for the dam. This is to replace the broken flashboards and some tree removal out there. Decommission the Hillsdale pump station and install gravity sewer, which is the preferable method of pumping the sewer. And Stewart Creek pump station and force main upgrade is the big ticket item there. That'll be funded from the water and sewer fund balance. Water and sewer propose a water and sewer rate increase of 3.5%. This is up from the recommended 3.2% that we did last year. We need to make up the difference for the impact fee settlement. We paid out $1,750,000 in this settlement, and that 3.5% helps us bridge that gap that was created there. We're also proposing an increase for administrative and non-construction fees, in the amount of 1.95%. And construction cost index drives the impact fees, capacity fees that we charge. Those will be increasing by 2.68%. Any questions for water and sewer?
Councilwoman James here, previous slide, I know it was noted that a change from administrative assistant from 30 to full-time. What was the justification for that?
Russell Colbath, Water Director. Councilmember James, we've seen a market increase in workload with our development activity. More work orders for meter sets, tampering by contractors, and just generally contract volumes have really increased for us as our work has increased. We've been at that same staffing level for a number of years, and this is only a 10-hour increase, and we feel it's well justified to keep track of our work orders and all the admin work that we are handling right now.
Thanks, Russell.
Yes, ma'am.
Any other questions? Lisa Strickland for water sewer. Moving along, the next department is our electric. We have approved or included trench covers. This is grates to cover the holes where the work is not complete. Substation transformer bushings. The purchase of an all-terrain forklift for the substation maintenance where the boom lift and other equipment can't fit. Transformer oil. This is a maintenance item. New line test equipment. This is to identify energized lines. We'd like to increase their vehicle maintenance. NCDOT US 74 widening from Dickerson to Rocky River. We have to bear that cost to relocate the electric lines in that area. We've increased and funded new subdivision construction at $1 million. That's up from $750,000. That's with the uptick in new subdivisions. Funding for the future industrial park, running the new lines there. AMI metering solutions. This is to study the use of that type of metering. Replacing or retiring the old underground primary. This is a continued upgrade, as is the SCADA system upgrade. Electric's share of resurfacing at the operations center. Substation wildlife protection and security and additional rock. This is an annual funding for maintenance in those areas. SCADA mate switch installation so that we can monitor electric circuits. This will help in an outage. And Shepley property, this is to run lines to this new proposed commercial area. Any questions for electric? They also have a small fee schedule change. These are pass-through costs that are dictated by NCMPA. They charge them to us. We pass that cost to the customer. These are renewable energy portfolio standards, REPS. They're to cover the cost of energy research and development. They're going up 4 cents for residential customers, a little bit more for commercial and industrial. And that concludes electric. Moving on to natural gas. We are proposing a liquefied natural gas facility mechanical superintendent. We are also proposing a new crew cab pickup, tracking and traceability equipment and software for the pipeline components, new equipment trailers, a new ethane detector. We're increasing the repair and maintenance at the liquefied natural gas plant. We're increasing the street department utility cuts. This is what we pay the internal crews to fix road cuts. Funding for running pipeline to new subdivisions. System reinforcement projects. This is an annual funding. NCDOT roadway relocations. As I mentioned, in electric, any relocations are borne by the utility, the cost. Commercial area at Shepley property, extending our lines out to that area. Funding for lines to an industrial park. AMI metering solutions to study the use of that type of metering. Transmission pipeline integrity management assessment. This is an annual funding required by the federal government to have these assessments. A SCADA system upgrade is ongoing. The distribution integrity management program. Revenue-based expansions are just that, expansions of our system where we feel we'll be able to get a payback, make our money back in those areas. The liquefied natural gas facility upgrades and additional storage. Pipeline replacement, that's an annual. The next three are actually annual. So the pipeline replacement, cathodic protection remediation, and the system uprate projects, those are all annual fundings. And we're also funding industrial meter rebuilds and upgrades to make sure that those industrial meters are recording the gas that is used efficiently and effectively and accurately. And that's it for natural gas fund. Any questions?
Mayor Kilgore, Ms. Lisa, could I have just a second? We've been going for 3 hours. Does anyone need a 10-minute break? We don't like too much more, but I'm just wondering if somebody might need a fast break. Is everybody okay?
Yeah.
Councilwoman Anthony, how much longer do you estimate we have?
Well, it'd be hard to estimate. Lisa, can you estimate that, please?
Lisa Strickland, yes, there's only about maybe 5 or 6 more slides.
I don't know how much talking we do.
Yeah.
Well, also, I mean, Councilwoman Anthony, I suggest we just go ahead rapidly.
Okay. Well,
Great.
Okay, let's move right along then, Ms. Lisa.
All right.
Just wanted to make that offer.
All right, Lisa Strickland, that was it for natural gas, solid waste. The only change here is a fee schedule change. This increase was approved back on June 4th of 2019. This is to increase residential pickup 85 cents. So it would take the monthly rate from $20.45 to $21.30. It would increase all other monthly charges such as small commercial or other businesses 50 cents per month. This is to help offset the contract costs that were increased with Waste Pro. Moving on, Charlotte Monroe, Executive.
Lisa, Freddie Gordon, I apologize. Just a quick question. Is there any of those increases going to help us pick up yard waste in the city of Monroe or get back on a schedule that it was originally intended to be?
I'm going to defer to Lisa. All this is to recoup our costs to pay the contract to Waste Pro.
Okay, so we have a contract. That contract was approved on June 4th, 2019. And increases were built into that contract. Is that what you're stating?
Yeah, the contract costs went up when we renewed. And rather than hitting the customers with a large increase all at one time, the committee chose to increase rates over time, over 3 years. The fund balance was adequate at that time to subsidize those increased contract costs. So the decision was made to have this increase at this time.
This is Larry Faison. Councilman Gordon, to your point about yard waste and the service level and so forth. I understand. I'm not sure if Lisa was read into this this point, and I'm getting ready to make that. Brian and I talked about a week or two ago about bringing forward a proposal to the appropriate committee and then to council to address yard waste. And not to make it sound elaborate, but we are studying the contract to see what the contract performance elements are. But it appears to be that that we'll need to expand ask the contractor to expand the capacity to pick up yard waste, and that we would expect or anticipate that there'd be a corresponding cost increase. And so we're not ready at this moment to present that. It's not part of the budget. It's on a different path, if you will.
Okay, that's fine. Listen, that was before I came on council, June 4th, 2019. I was a little unfamiliar with it, and I was curious as to what our solution might be. That sounds fine. Thank you.
All right, thank you. This is Lisa Strickland. Moving on to Charlotte Monroe Executive Airport. Excluded were requests for an awning cover for the mobile fuelers, paving the airport lots, and aircraft ground support equipment. We are recommending a fee schedule change to change the towing fee from $200 flat to a range from $200 to $800. The fee would be determined by the airport manager.
Councilwoman Anthony, paving the airport parking lot. Is it in poor condition? That's $132,000.
Councilmember Anthony, this is Peter Savalas, the airport manager. The lots that I'm referring to are the terminal lots and the lots at Hangar 1. Their age is plus 20 years. They are in still viable condition, comparable to the parking lots around City Hall, but they have aged and the pavement is oxidized. So based on engineering expectations, that age level, what requires is the pavement should be overlaid. If I could find a more viable economical solution with just a surface treatment, I'm open to that suggestion. But I'm trying to look out for the life of the pavement so it'll last us another 20 years. The best solution there would be to do an overlay, a 2-inch overlay.
Well, this is Councilwoman Anthony. I see your point, but I'm offering the suggestion that you explore other possibilities as well.
This is Peter Savalas, airport manager. Yes, ma'am, I will. I will look at other options.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Lisa Strickland, any other questions? Charlotte Monroe Executive Airport. That concludes the departmental section of the presentation. Also included are other discretionary or special programs as listed. Youth Council, $42,000. We have included the City Council revised pay plan. The amount of the increase was just over $41,000. We've included council discretionary funds in the same funding level previously provided, $3,000 per council member. City Council travel budget at $5,000 per council member. Again, the air show, I've mentioned that before, and the outside agency funding, economic development incentive obligations. We've also included a subsidy for Center Theater, $208,000.
Councilwoman Anthony, what is included in the subsidy for the Center Theater?
It's just to cover the overall operations of the theater. We've got, I believe, we'll have 4 funded positions. And Pete, you'll have to correct me if I'm wrong. And just the overall operations, utility expense, everything but programming. The programming we anticipate covering through fee revenue, ticket revenue. We also have donations that are offsetting the cost of the programming at the theater, but just insurance, general personnel costs, that was the gap that we needed to fill.
Mayor Kilgore, Lisa, we get open down there, some of the revenue will come back, I would think, by the programs we put on. Is that correct?
Yes, it could. And the more that we make through the ticket revenue, the less.
Well, I just wanted to point out that at some point we get open down there, that we can start funding some of it from the revenue it brings in.
And Mayor, this is Pete Hovanek. Yes, you are correct, but initially, I think it's going to take anywhere from 3 to 5 years for us to be at that point. We've always had an initial understanding that we were going to be operating at a deficit until we established ourselves. COVID put us a year behind. So hopefully we'll be opening up with the first July 1 ready to go. But we've said all along that the theater is going to be an economic development catalyst for our downtown, drawing people downtown. So while you see that subsidy number, I also always want to plant the seed and share with you the other benefits of having that theater, quality of life and everything as well. I don't want us to just get lost in that number. I know that's a big number, but there's a lot of other things that go with it. So just wanted to put that plug in there for y'all.
Yeah, I recognize that, and I understand that, but I just want to point out that it's not all dead weight down there.
No. Councilwoman Anthony, does that include like the grand opening and securing some talent?
Yes, ma'am. This is Pete Hovanek. Again, the subsidy is more for the employees, and we'll have 3 full-time employees at the theater, and we'll have a pool of part-time employees. We have 1 current full-time. We're interviewing for our second. We did have 1, but he resigned and moved back to Pennsylvania. So we actually have interviews ongoing for that, and then an administrative position. So we'll have 3 full-times, and I think that's where most of the operating comes from, most of that subsidy. But based on the amount of calls that we're getting in recent, it's very popular, it's very attractive, and I don't know if it's just people are itching and looking for something to do, somewhere to go. But our traffic, phone and email traffic have been very high lately with folks wanting to get in there. And I believe Councilwoman James had a little group through there last week, and we're well on our way to opening, and we just need to get these staff in place. This way we're ready by hopefully June 1, when the governor hopefully releases a bunch of the restrictions.
Mayor Kilgore,
Okay.
Pete,
Thank
did you
you.
think, I'm sorry, Councilman Slota, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead.
Oh, you weren't. I just said thank you.
Okay. Mayor Kilgore, Pete, did you say June 1? You think that in June 1, we can have our opening ceremony down there we've talked about?
Pete Hovanek, yes and no. We're shooting for our September for our gala. We've debated back and forth whether to have the gala before we open, but we want to have our band and have time to plan something correctly. So we're shooting for September, mid-September as our gala grand opening. We wanted to make sure we were past everything and hopefully don't have restrictions. And again, those June dates and possible restrictions, that's all a guess right now. We have to wait and see what the governor decides with capacity limits.
Okay.
Councilwoman James, on that note, Pete, is there like a list of events that's going to be at the theater that it's on the website, people can go check out to see where they're at?
Pete Hovanek, yes, there will be. We are in the process of finalizing a theater-specific website, one that we can advertise on, one that we could have upcoming shows, whether it's movies, whether it's rentals, whether it's productions. So yes, ma'am, we will have that. We don't have a set schedule right now because everyone is still a little reticent about making those plans because of the restrictions, artists and folks. So We did a little internal police promotion ceremony last week. We might have some other stuff coming up smaller. But hopefully starting towards the end of May into June, we'll start showing movies and kind of ease into the rental and get ready for some productions in the late summer, early fall.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, moving on.
Lisa Strickland. If there's no more questions on the special program slide. This is just a recap. Proposed fee and rate changes, as we mentioned, 4 cents for the reps, no increase for natural gas, slight 85-cent increase in solid waste, 3.5% water and sewer, no increase in stormwater. The proposed remaining budget schedule, at the 5/11 meeting, we would present the budget message, adopt the fee schedule, and call for the public hearing. And the public hearing would be held on June 8th at 6 p.m. We would adopt the budget at that meeting. I think we're going to plan to have a few items that were mentioned for follow-up, the ad valorem, the positions for planning and building, a little bit more information presented at that May strategic. And that's all I have.
Okay. Council have any other questions or comments? If not,
Councilman Gordon here.
yes.
Councilman Gordon? Hello?
You're breaking out. Mayor Kilgore, you're breaking out, Councilman Gordon. Go ahead, try again.
Okay, it's open. Okay, I was just going to highly recommend that these future questions and presentations be included in the May 11th, and maybe we clear the table for anything else on that date so we can answer these.
I know.
All right, anything else?
Brian, please mute yourself.
I got him.
Mayor Kilgore, to the council, do you have any other question or comment? If not, I'll
Mayor Pro Tem
recommend.
Holloway, Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
I think all of us want to thank Lisa and all the staff heads for job well done and foresight into what our needs are, and appreciate all the work everybody does.
Yeah, Councilwoman James gonna echo that. Was want to thank Lisa and Larry and the staff and all the department heads for all the work they put into this. As a
Councilwoman Anthony, I co-sign.
Councilman Keziah agrees.
Mayor Kilgore agrees.
Councilman McGee, same thing.
Mayor Kilgore, yes, a lot of hard work going into this budget so far, and there'll be some more hard work put to it before we get to the end in June. So we do appreciate the manager and the staff, all their hard work. So if there's not any other questions or comments, I'd entertain a motion.
Councilwoman Anthony, so moved.
Second, Councilman Keziah.
I have a motion and I have a second. Councilman Anthony,
Agreed.
Councilman Gordon,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Holloway,
Yes.
Councilman James,
yes.
Councilman Keziah,
Yes.
Mayor Kilgore is yes, and Councilman McGee.
Yes.
All right, thank you very much, folks, for all you participating, and